I'm Rezlar.
I'm Frosty.
As nobody's really engaged quite yet.
Yep. Oh, there we have a bit of. Oh, was that a triple stun for the Mystic?
And welcome back to the Value Pack. And welcome everybody to another episode of the Value Pack. Yeah, I got nothing. I don't think no announcements or anything. Joining us today is the very famous and very geared, and that's definitely why he gets kills and not because he's good at the game. Rilok the Ranger, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what would you say is your biggest advantage in Siege? Is it the 300 AP?
that has something to do with it. Just
Sorry,
Hey,
I'm a salty gearlet, man. I can't help it.
I mean, to an extent, he's right. I would say like the gear certainly helps. But yeah, between that and learning from people like Time Bomb and jetpacks when it comes to getting my positioning better, that certainly helps out. Those two are some of the best rangers when it comes to learning that stuff. And then also Soul, that guy, he's made ranger videos that everybody who has ever played this game for, ranger doesn't matter, I guess, the region. He's very knowledgeable. So learning from all those guys, that's kind of helped me out as well.
So when did you start playing BDO, and have you always been a ranger? Were you a late adopter or what?
No, I have been ranger since day one in a release. Yeah, so
Okay, cool.
I started out, funny enough, every, I guess, MMO, and even, FPSs, I've always kind of preferred like the stealthier approach. So, assassin, ninja, all that kind of stuff. Well, those classes didn't exist at release. So I picked Ranger because it seemed like it was the closest thing to it at the time, where it was like, oh, that's a range assassin, you're deleting people from a distance before they can, really react. And if your positioning is good enough, you're almost like a sniper. So that's why I picked it. And then whenever I guess Ninja and Kuno did get released, at that point I felt I was just too committed to Ranger, so I just never really re-rolled off of it.
Do you regret that decision heavily?
Oh man, I don't think there's a single ranger, that plays this game that has not thought about re-rolling. And for me, it's always in the back of my mind, especially now with ninjas being so strong. It's like, ugh. And every time these coupons roll around, I'm like, I tell everybody, hey, y'all got to get me on like Suicide Watch or something, because this is the moment. Like, it's moments like this, because I'm really lazy when it comes to leveling classes and getting skill XP and all that kind of stuff, but those coupons make it really, really tempting.
Yeah,
so, they do.
I'm kind of curious from
my Maywa brethren are out.
So just from your point of view, let's start with Awakening Ranger. What is the state of Awakening Ranger? What's like the balance like for that? And we'll go I guess 1v1 large scale and PvE, kind of separate them all.
Okay. So with Awakening Ranger 1v1, it's decent. It's not the best, but that's okay. You gotta put in a lot of work to get your rotations, all that kind of stuff, setting up for your grabs, all that kind of stuff. It's not bad, but for Ranger, that's as good as it gets in Awakening. It's being, I would say, slightly above average for 1v1s, because when it comes to PvE, Awakening Ranger, I would say, is bottom tier. Things that normal classes can benefit from, like back attack, we can't really benefit from. So it makes it really, really difficult to, get all this kind of nice little silver. Like whenever we see Succession Ranger getting nerfed in PvE, and then you see warriors that are just running around making triple the amount, and it's like, yeah, but Warriors got an awakening buff, where's ours? For Ranger, it's kind of demoralizing. Just a little bit. And then I guess for large scale, it's oddly enough the playstyle I would say is different compared to Succession, because you don't have a lot of that raw AP damage. You're very much more of a kill confirmer. You're utilizing your burst for when people have like a sliver of health and are getting ready to get out of that range of everybody else, I guess. So between that and also I guess like range support, so peeling and dropping CCs, all that kind of stuff, that's mainly what your role is. And for Ranger and Awakening, it can feel lackluster at times, because if all you're doing is just providing range support, via CCs, well, there's a handful of classes that can do that just as good, if not better than Awakening Ranger,
Like who?
For one, archers. I don't know how archers
What?
got nerfed.
No.
Well, think about it, because like all the stuff that Ranger got nerfed, they gave to Archer and then some, and it's like, are you serious? But whatever.
I know.
I would
Archer
say-
has to be the biggest slap in the face to Rangers ever. Dude,
Yeah,
even just
yeah.
Meteor Dive, man. Oh my. Like, it also stiffens.
Meteor Dive is fucking.
Yeah.
More damage, more protection, just as much, if not more CCs. It's like, what? Like, I don't understand how you took everything away from us because range was too strong, but then you gave it to archers. So whatever. I would say, yeah, archers. I would argue maybe, well, definitely Succession Rangers, and then I would say, I think maybe Witch, honestly. Like, there's a few
Yeah.
classes that can do it better. So, and they're
Yeah.
more protected as well. I mean, a Sork with a Dream of Doom is going to be more reliable than a Ranger, simply because, like, okay, you throw Dream of Doom and you're immediately into an iframe. Whereas a Ranger, we have a lot of telegraphed, CCs that
Right.
are also unprotected.
So let's move to Succession a little bit, because Succession started off. I mean, in 1v1s it was never good generally. Like most people agree, it wasn't good 1v1 right off the bat. Why is that, and what could they do to make that better? It's kind of I'm curious about that. If, in your opinion, if you could change something about Succession Rangers specifically for 1v1s, what would it be?
For 1v1 specifically, I would give it an S block. You as a Ranger in Succession, you were just unprotected, and that's one of the things that that made the amount of damage that we did almost justifiable. Like, now I think we should have gotten the nerf, but not this much, because it's like, okay, if you catch us, we're dead. Like, we literally have no protection, so we need this damage to be viable. Whereas now that we've gotten a lot of that damage removed, it's like, okay, well, to give us that balance, you got to give us some more protection. I think an S block would kind of be the only thing that we would need.
Right.
Because currently it's just too easy to land a range CC on a Succession Ranger. That's it.
Didn't I say that? Didn't I say that 2 weeks ago, Rezlar?
Say what now? Sorry.
That Ranger suck just needs an S block. Like, the thing that never made sense to me is, like, I mean, I get, I don't know, like, the Archer has it and more protected CCs. Like, why? It's so weird to me.
Yeah, well, that's what I was about to say. I was about to say, if you're an Archer main, this podcast is probably going to be very annoying to listen to. But I do not understand why Archer has an S block, but Ranger Succession doesn't. Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. They function basically the same. I don't quite. My brain can't figure it out. I don't know.
Yep.
It's super weird.
We have two, like, I guess, kind of blocks that we can utilize in Succession, but both are, with a skill. You're gonna have Nature's Tremble, and then which is relatively slow, and then you're gonna have Razor Wind, which that's not a frontal block until you start shooting. So there's, a delay between the time you utilize the skill and then actually start firing. So it's like an S block would just fix all of those problems. Not sure why we don't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, have you experienced jumping on that T9 and just fucking Gatling gunning away? Because I fought a Suck Ranger on a T9, and oh my god, literally unstoppable. If they have the AP, that's just awful to deal with. Not to say that's the solution, just get a T9.
I think that is the solution. If
I
you
think
should
that
just
is
be allowed to bring Doomhorse into BA so the Rangers can 1v1.
What classes tangent? What classes don't have a block or an S block at this point?
Like at all, or
yeah, no, like I'm not counting like frontal guarded abilities. I mean, they don't have.
Maybe we should count kits rather than classes.
Right.
I think every Awakening class has an S block, but not every succession.
So
that's what I'm referring to. What kits do not have a block or an S block at this point?
Off the top of my head, Ninja Succession, no S block. Sork Succession, no S block. Tamer Succession, no S block. Ranger Succession, no S block. Zerker does have it in both Awaken and Succession now, right? WizWitch.
Can't speak for Succession. Never done it.
I'm pretty sure it does. WizWitch Succession both do not have an S block.
So it's basically just a lot of Succession.
Mewa Musa only have active block. They don't have an S block.
Right. They have a Q block. It's still blocked though, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
Victim S.
Well, differentiating between the two.
No, I said S block or a regular block.
Yeah, block. Trying to think of. DK has an S block still, I'm pretty sure. Or no, they have a Q block. Lon has an S block in both. Yeah, I think that's about it. Or I can't think of the... Oh, Shy doesn't have an S block. They actually hate that too, dude. Shy's hate that they don't have an S block.
What?
Feels shy, man.
Yeah, dude. Shies don't have an S block or a Q block or any real movement. It's pretty funny.
It's almost like their class isn't made to PvP. Weird.
I can't think of any others off the top of my head.
So it's basically just Successions and only...
It's mostly Successions, yeah.
Yeah, it's all the Successions that didn't originally have a block, basically. Right? Because, I mean...
Right.
Like, Warrior, Valkyrie, those have... It's weird that Berserker has it, because I don't think Berserker had S block originally, so it's kind of interesting that they gave it Succession S block. I don't know. I don't see the reasoning for that.
Yeah, for Rangers,
it's just gonna frustrate you. Yeah, trying to get reasoning out of the devs.
It would be such a quality of life. I mean, not even just balance, but just quality of life for Rangers in general. Mostly because like your movement, because so that's another thing with Succession. Like if you're a Succession Ranger, you have to choose between the EES that you can spam twice, right? The bugged one, or the one that moves you further. Which one do you take and why?
So first of all, it's not a bug. I guess there was a tourney out in on the KR servers or whatever, and there was a handful of Rangers doing that. And instead of admitting that it was a bug, the devs were like, that's working as intended. So
right. Remember they patched it out in Global Labs and then reversed the patch and kept it. Or maybe it was on Korea. I think they did fix it and then ended up reverting it. So they kind of have accepted that it needs to be in the game. So yeah, all right, we won't call that a bug. But it doesn't work that way in Succession, does it? I'm pretty sure.
No, so the Prime EES, it doesn't work. Now you get
It just straight up doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Now you get an iframe, and then you get kind of like a flow for the jump backwards, and that's an iframe as well. But both of those are on a 12-second cooldown, and that's it. So I typically that's the one that you get a lot more distance with. I prefer the absolute one where it's the double iframe kind of thing, just because we have so few protections to begin with in Succession. I'm using that one, and then even if I'm in Awakening, obviously I can only use that one. So
right,
yeah. I feel like if you're gonna do PvE, then Prime EES is better because it actually does a decent amount of damage. But if you're going to PvP, then you got to run Absolute.
Right. So I was watching one of your videos where you talk about Succession right after the nerfs, and you had mentioned that basically if you're 281 plus, that range of Succession is still good, especially for large scale, and you still think it's like unequivocally better in PvE. Do you still feel the same about both of those takes?
For PvE, it's harder to say. So with Awakening and Succession, they're both equally kind of garbage in PvE now. But with Awakening, you can defend your grind spot better. So, you know, if you're going to be on Arsha 24/7, it might be better to be in Awakening for PvE. Whereas when it comes to utilizing combos, and if you're going to have a long grind session, then being in Succession's better because the combos are just easier.
So what is
that's kind of my take on that.
What is your bar for garbage? Because like, what do you pull at Star's End? Because Ranger's Succession still pulls more at Star's End than a lot of classes.
So I actually don't really grind at Star's End anymore. But you are right. Now, when it comes to I guess it's more in terms of comparison to like just Warrior. Like it's kind of
yeah,
honestly like
the highest
The top tier.
Yeah. No, Warrior, I mean, we can all agree that Warrior is like, what the fuck, right? Like, Warrior's Succession doesn't make any sense for grinding. Like, what the hell? Yeah, because like 6K. I mean, that's like economy. I mean, if you run an advanced loot scroll on a Warrior that's pulling 6K at Star's End, what is that? You get like 8.5K trash. Yeah.
It's actually pretty nutty.
So where are you grinding? You're at Ackman? Or
no, usually underwater.
Sacre, yeah, that's right. Like, yeah, how much trash do you get usually in a normal loot scroll?
So normally I grind there. I don't typically keep track of, you know, how much I'm making per hour. Typically I'll like grind on stream or something like that, and at that point I'm not really even paying attention. And even when I'm not grinding on stream, I'm just grinding for hours on end, and I'm not paying attention to the per hour because for me it's like, hey, if I don't give a, you know, I don't care how much this other class is grinding per hour if they do like 2 hours and I'm here doing like, you know, 7.
Right.
So, that's just my thought process in that. But right now, you know, being deployed and all that, I can't really grind at some of these higher end grind spots just because a little bit of lag and there goes some Elcar gems.
Right. Well, lucky for you, Rangers, Descending Current's really good at Sheep Mountain.
Yeah. Well, I actually I was grinding. Oh man. I finished up my horse gear, the Krogdalgos or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I was out at Mansion Forest and Polys and all that stuff for the longest time. And it's nice having that added HP and stamina buff.
Right. So when the nerf came out, what is your biggest problem with the way they nerfed it? Like you said it needed a nerf. So if it were up to you, what would you have changed instead of what they did, or what did they do wrong? In your opinion?
So I wouldn't have nerfed PUBG at all. That's kind of our bread and butter skill for PvE.
Sorry, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds?
Yeah.
It's a
Prime Ultimate Blasting Ghost. Yeah.
Ah, got it. Right. Okay.
Sorry. That got nerfed, and it's kind of like, why? I mean, it's more of a up close and personal skill for PvP, which as a Succession Ranger, if somebody's like right in front of your face, that's literally just a last ditch effort, Hail Mary, you know, attempt at surviving and getting the kill. Typically you want to have your positioning in a point where you're not really utilizing that skill. So that, in my opinion, was just strictly a PvE nerf. Charging Wind, I honestly felt like that should have gotten nerfed, but I don't think by as much. And then the Descending Current, that one doesn't really affect me all that much. And you know what? I would say for the Charging Wind, that one isn't as bad of a nerf because like that was more single target damage. And I'm gonna get flamed for this by other Rangers, but that one was more single target like burst. In group PvP, I'm not really concerned with that. In PvE, I'm not really concerned with that. Like there's so many other skills that I can still utilize. It was fun utilizing, but I shouldn't be able to rip through your entire block and then rip through all of your HP at the same time. I think
Yeah.
the nerf, which is kind of where it is now, at least for me, it's like, okay, I can pretty much eat up your entire block. And you know what? I'm okay with that. So that's why I said, Ranger Succession, I feel is kind of gated by AP. At that 281 AP marker, then it's like, okay, you're gonna notice that it's generally better in most of the situations, unless you're strictly just going to be doing 1v1s. Whereas if you're under 281 AP, you don't have enough damage to really stave people off before they've closed the gap on you. So being in Awakening is going to be a little bit better for you.
So in the Prime Ultimate Blast and Gust nerf, they lowered the damage numbers straight up, like the percentages, so that reduced it, and they removed down attack, right? Those were the two.
Yep.
So my thing always with that, because I did feel like that skill was kind of insane. I just wish they did one or the other and not both. That was kind of how I felt about it.
Exactly.
Instead of
I don't
both.
think there's a class in the game that has had like both. Like we've seen damage, I guess nerfs, but to take the down attack away as well, like was it really kicking that many people in the teeth? Who was complaining about this skill for PvE when warriors are like, getting triple the amount that we are? So it's kind of like I didn't really see why that skill should have gotten nerfed as hard as it did.
Yeah.
I would have preferred just the damage nerf, but keep the down attack.
All right, so give Succession an S block. Fix Prime Blast and Gust a little bit. And you guys will be happy? And you guys will get off of Reddit with your tears? What is
shit?
Yeah. What does Awakening
Frosty's
need?
so toxic.
What does Awakening need in your opinion to be better? Because Awakening's always been in this weird state where, like, I don't know, as someone who does not play Ranger, and the way I see other people that don't play Ranger when they're dealing with really good Rangers, there's this weird thing where you're like, Ranger feels like they're not strong enough, and then you fight someone like Time Bomb or Critical, and you're like, all right, Ranger might be a little bit OP. It's like, yeah. So what do they need to do to fix Ranger Awakening?
Okay, so with Ranger Awakening, I feel like the class or that that spec kind of suffers from not really having an identity. Whereas every other class, like all right, Succession Ranger, large scale, raw damage, range CC. With Awakening, you don't really have anything to call your own. The reason for that is ideally on paper, Ranger Awakening is balanced. It's like, okay, pre-Awakening, you have no protections, but that's where all your damage is. And then in Awakening, you have all your protections, but not really any useful damage. And I say useful because outside of a 1v1, you're not going to be able to just roll up and Nature's Tremble a group of people, like it's just not feasible. The problem is that for pre-awakened Ranger, your damage is just not enough, And for me to fix the, like the awaken spec, I would say give pre-awaken more damage. Not as much as Succession, obviously, but give it a little bit more. Or if you're gonna say, okay, well, Ranger, the awakening like damage, it ain't that bad. Like Nature's Tremble, it does something. Regeneration, it does something. Then give the pre-awakened kit a little bit more protection. I would say one of those two things, because as it stands right now, like, outside of 1v1s, there's nothing you can do. And then you mentioned like, whenever you fight Rangers, generally it's like, oh, maybe they need a little bit of a buff. They're kind of, I guess, subpar, but then you run into, Time Bomb or Critical or, whoever, and then it's a game changer. That's, I think, what makes Ranger complex. I don't think the class itself, like, in terms of combos, is complex, but I think the state of Ranger is complex because of that. Like you'll fight 8 out of 10 Rangers and nothing, like, oh, they're not that, that tough. I can easily deal with them. But then when you find a good Ranger who's also got gear, then it's a problem, because Rangers, like, we scale just, I think all like the elf classes, like Ranger, Archer, DK, we scale better than any class when it comes to AP, because it's just on demand burst, like if you don't see me and I have the distance and I just hit you with one skill, that's it. Like your health is gone.
Right.
And I guess for the for the devs that
today
that
I learned Sork is an elf class.
Yeah, hey, I try not to like compare. I try not to compare Ranger to Sork and Ninja, because it's God. Like, what do you do for that? Like, when you start?
But in PvE, you compare things to Warrior. Nice. All right, that makes sense. Warrior in PvE is the Ninja and Sork from PvP, dude. It's fucking
because we
insane.
got a PvE nerf first and they didn't, and they're like pulling way more than we are.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's right. That Warrior's still doing as much as it is, but that's a totally different.
So I have this. This is where I daydream about Ranger, because it wasn't a long time, but I mained Ranger for about 2 months before absolutes and rabams were even a thing. And at that time, you generally only used pre-awakening for Call from Sky, the Blasting Gust CC, and EES, and that was kind of about it. Like, even shotgun didn't really do damage, again, unless you were against someone super low, because there were no absolutes. And at the time, that was the Ranger that I personally really liked. I liked her awakening a lot. So I feel like if I had to pick one of your 2 routes that you described, I would rather the awakening portion of it get buffed and not the pre-awaken, since you have succession if you want to do that style anyway. But I would love this is daydream changes that'll never happen. But I always wished that Ranger Awakening, like the filler damage, should be better, because like Nature's Tremble and Regeneration do damage, but then literally everything else kind of doesn't in the Awakening kit. And I also wish it had like a passive where when your swords are out, you were just a little bit more tanky. Like, if you swap to the bow, then sure, you lose some DP or DR or whatever, but when your swords are out, since you're really, really melee and you don't have the iframes of Sork and Ninja, you kind of like need to be more tanky in that.
So it'd be like whenever you go to Awakening, you gain 10 HP every 5-second regeneration.
Well, whatever the case, like just something, like maybe similar to like the Warriors block, how they get that buff, like AP and DP. Like maybe in Ranger Awakening, when your swords are out, you just have a buff on your buff bar where you get 30 DP and 20 AP or something, and then when you switch to the bow, it goes away. I think that would be kind of interesting.
Yeah,
because
that's where
the animations on Awakening, dude, are legit like the coolest in the whole game. I really think that.
And that's why, like, I feel, to an extent, Ranger Awakening kind of doesn't have an identity, because it's like, it's fun, it's nice, in 1v1s especially, it feels great. But if you try to do, a lot of this stuff in a group situation, the more people, the worse it gets, kind of thing, where you don't have enough damage in Awakening form to, really like just go in and nuke a group of people, unless you have a ton of AP. And you also don't have I guess you have protection, but it's a lot of super armors and you're squishy as a ranger, so that super armor doesn't mean anything. Like, you're getting blown up, so it's kind of, that's why I'm not too much of a fan of the direction. And honestly, I don't know how they would, like, I mean, I know I gave my advice on what I would do to fix it, but I know the devs would just never do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I can attest to that.
Dude, you got some fat Maywa buffs this week, right? I don't want to hear it.
What are you talking about? They didn't touch shit.
Dude, I saw those notes.
They literally, like, I feel like they looked at the Maywa requests, the suggestions, and they're like, you know what could we pick around this? They're like, you know what? Moonlight Dash. No one uses that anymore. Let's make it usable by itself. Perfect. Excellent. But yeah.
How would you say, like, I mean, I guess, Nayashe, what do you think the like state of Maywas are when it comes to like the KR servers? Because like I know whenever I'm streaming, I'll have a few, players that play on the KR servers. They'll say like, "Hey, Ranger is extremely strong, like even after the nerfs." And I'm like, "You're kidding. I don't understand, like why ninjas and sorks over there are struggling to engage on Rangers." But then I realized their I guess their meta is different. Like on NA, we will re-roll in a heartbeat, and then you jump into an RBF and it looks like the Chunin exams, But over there, they just throw money at the screen, and it's like, all right, you're gonna nerf my class. I'm gonna just keep, I'm just gonna negate that with money.
I guess to answer your question, yeah, there's some skilled players over there for sure, but unfortunately, there's a lot of evidence to support that they don't play like.
They're stub arrow bots, dude.
So I'll give you an example, and this is something that came to my attention from a KR Meiwa player, as well as he plays Musa, and he's currently playing Succession Lawn, rip another Meiwa. But basically, what he described to me, this is what the playstyle is for Musas and Meiwas over there, unless they're like a really, really skilled player. But the typical Musa Meiwas over there, they will literally grind camp you. They'll wait to find someone that's grinding, and they will harass them with stub arrow spam. And this is why they nerfed Chase a while back on the stamina cost. They doubled the stamina cost of Chase because too many times people were literally just running away and no one could catch them ever. This is, understandable. But so what they do is they just stub arrow you while you're grinding, see if they got a CC, and if they did, they go in and kill you. Otherwise, they would just wait for their cooldowns, rinse, repeat until, they got you. And if you chased after them, they would just run away. If you actually caught them, they would V or escape, or if they thought they couldn't get away for very long because they ran out of stamina, they'll go to BA. Or even the more hardcore is if they got caught, they would already have Task Manager open with BDO selected and literally just hit the end task key and just kill the game and avoid being killed, and then log back in and rinse repeat. So yeah, it's a toxic play style over there, at least from the Musa Meiwa, side of things. In that respect, I think it's fine that they nerf Chase, but they should encourage other types of gameplay, like allowing us to fight in the box more, which would focus on players that are actually skilled at their class and reward them for, getting catches and not having too many stamina problems.
Also,
so go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say a thing to consider as well, and this is just me throwing something out there to think about. You said that like Ranger is really heavily dependent on AP. Like the lowest geared Ranger in KR is probably like 315 AP. So something to consider as well, just saying.
And that's why, like, because let's be honest, when it comes to the devs, when it comes to the, the devs, they listen to the KR players. They're balancing around the KR players. So when I see these, Ranger nerfs and, you'll have Rangers on NA and EU that are like, what the hell? Like, what's going on? Why are we catching these nerfs? I'm like, you got to understand, first of all, again, they don't re-roll. So there's a ton of like Valks and Rangers running around. I think there was a clip out there where there was like, 15 or 20 something Rangers in a guild. So they're all, Rangers. They're all pushing, 300, 310 AP. And at that AP bracket, like Rangers, DKs, and Archers are just vastly better, in my opinion, than most of the other classes in this game. Because if you're a 300 Meiwa or a Zerker or, whatever, Ninja, that's cute. But if there's 20 something Rangers, like just imagine being in an RBF that has, every Ranger is, above 300 AP, and there's at least 10 of them, and they're all sitting in some, rat spot.
Yeah, you can't approach that.
Current. Like, yeah, like what do you do for that? There's literally nothing you can do in that situation. And that's
Sadly,
why, like, you have,
I mean, yeah, from a KR's point of view, with all their gear and everything, like, yeah, Ranger's probably a lot higher tier than what people realize, but I think a lot of that has to do with I don't know. Like what you're telling me doesn't necessarily support what I'm about ready to mention, but like what KR players have told me is that they take open world PvP a lot more seriously than we do. Like it's everything. They will go out of their way and make sure that they do whatever they can to win an open world PvP scenario. Doesn't matter if it's 1v1, 2v2, or if they're ganging up on somebody, or it turns into a GVG. That's everything to them in comparison to No Wars and Siege. No Wars and Siege are pretty much from what I understand, a dead thing over there for them too. The open world combat is where it's at for them. So having that gear advantage and whatnot, pushing as much gear as you can, and just getting to the point where blocks are just a momentary thing and then they disappear instantly. That's what it's all about. So a ranger, for example, would be pretty good at dealing with that, especially if no one has the jump on you.
Exactly.
Ranger is like one of those classes. If someone has the jump on you, you're pretty much fucked. I feel. I'm sure you can probably relate. Being peeled is pretty painful, but I mean that could be said for any class. But you have a lot more unprotected damage that you try to pump out on the regular than some classes. That's I feel like that's more of an issue.
Yeah, but then at the same time, like I mentioned, one of the reasons why Jetpacks is always top fragging is because, you have people like me. Well, his positioning is, obviously is solid. And yes, that is a major factor. But at the same time, those rare moments where he gets caught, typically, myself or Poison or, there's a handful of Rangers that are immediately peeling for him. So it's like, okay, you caught one Ranger. Now there's two Rangers that are immediately peeling for him. On the KR side of things, there's a lot more than, like 7 Rangers in a guild kind of thing. What do you do for that? How do you deal with, and it really only takes, 2 Rangers that are at, 300 plus AP. Exactly. So what do you do for that when there's like
everyone? 10? Jetpacks is garbage without his other teammates.
Yeah, I mean, in that same respect, with the whole peeling or with the whole like group, like Rangers definitely probably make up more of the composition over there for sure. Like I asked KR players over there, and they're like, "You're lucky if you have one Maewa in a guild." So like, the Rangers have a lot of utility when it comes to large scale and open world GVG. I feel.
It would be interesting to see, like, if there was, first of all, if we could get past the lag and all that stuff, but like a global server essentially where you could see like, KR, Siege, or just open world GVG type stuff versus NA and then EU, because on NA, it's mages. Like we live and die by the PA, whereas over there, it's very
getting to
much
see
like
their strategy versus ours and see, what really prevails. Yeah. That'd be pretty interesting. I mean, they originally kind of talked about something like that, but then they like, oh no, that's not what we meant. I think it was with the when they were first talking about the global lab servers, but they were kind of mentioning something else where it kind of seemed like they were mentioning something else where that we would be able to war against KR players, but they're like, oh no, what we talked about was global labs, test server, blah, blah, blah. Not like a universal, because they originally had a concept where they wanted to like bring all the regions together into one giant world kind of thing.
That was always bullshit.
Yeah, I mean
that was literally just a cover to give us the fucking KR cash shop. That's literally all that was about.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it did. So wait, I want to talk kind of a little bit about matchups. So for you, Rilok, when you're 1v1ing, if you have to 1v1, I guess you're 1v1ing in Awakening. Right, I presume. So if you're 1v1ing, what matchups do you feel like you have a distinct advantage? Like just for you personally, not Ranger, but like you feel really good against X class, and which matchups are you bad against?
Let's see. So for me personally, I feel like I have a distinct advantage on Tamers. Against Tamers. Fury Arrow is disgusting. You just keep spamming that. They'll get caught eventually, and then you just follow up with a knockdown. There's really not much that they can do. I would say also striker, and then to some extent mystic. Those would be kind of like my straight up, like, I counter them 9 out of 10 times.
Right.
Interesting. Mystic, huh?
Yeah. I think mystic, yeah, because I mean, like, yeah, mystic has, like, vacuum and a handful of slows, but I got range, and mystic doesn't really have any other range CCs compared to other, like, for me, my
Should have just
playstyle
ended with that. You should be like,
is,
"That's cute, vacuum, bitch. I got range."
I mean, honestly, like, it's for me, my playstyle, I live and die by the bow. Like, I've always utilized my bow for majority of my damage, and I've personally always saw Awakening as means to either set up for grabs or to recreate distance. The fact that they don't really have that much, like, they don't really have range CC potential means that I can just keep kiting, and eventually I'm just gonna land a range CC, and then that's it.
Yeah.
When they nerfed Wolf's Frenzy, that fucked that matchup.
Yeah, I feel like Wolf Frenzy was their only really way to catch a kiter.
Yeah. All right, which matchups suck for you?
God, Sork and Ninja. It's honestly right now for Rangers, it's tough to say like if we're bad or good, because it's like if you take Ninja and Sork out of the equation, Rangers do generally well. It's not terrible, but it's kind of like how mages were when Striker and Mystic released. Like, your hard counter is literally everywhere, Like, what do you do for that?
Yeah, it's kind of like,
I feel like a lot of classes feel that way nowadays.
Yeah.
you always have to take that kind of shit into account, though. Like, if you didn't count iframe classes, Berserker would be the number 1v1 class in the game, no contest. It's not even close. But
over Tamer?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Well, I think we'd lump Tamer
in my opinion.
Wouldn't we lump Tamer into the iframe classes?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess we would, right? They spam iframes. I mean,
that's the prerequisite for the title.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't there little jump that they always do in iframe, right?
Yeah.
Or is that super armor? I can never remember.
It's iframe. Evasion is an iframe, and tree climb is an iframe.
Yeah, so I guess that would be an iframe class. But I've been told that Tamer counters Zerker pretty hard. I've never had that much trouble with the matchup personally, but I don't know. Maybe I just haven't fought really good Tamers. I'm not sure. But, like, my point is, like, you always, like, it's always that caveat, right? It's like, well, if it wasn't for this one thing, like, it'd be really, really, like, good. But unfortunately,
I'll go. I'll get a hold of Friendo for you, Rezlar. Then when you come back with PTSD,
We'll ask you again.
The only person who's ever given me PTSD in this game is Mac. I fought him on his Sork when I was playing Warrior, and I was literally traumatized from Sork for like the next year and a half. It took me that long to get over it.
And that's the thing, man. If you fight a good Sork and a good Ninja right now, God, like, there's literally nothing you can do. That it's those moments where I'm just like hovering over the coupon to re-roll kind of thing. It's like, why am I dealing with this? But
what's that? 44% off.
Dude, it took me a year and a half after fighting Mac and fighting a bunch against Frosty to realize, oh, never mind, they're bad Sorks too. Like,
okay.
Yikes!
Yikes! How does Awakened Ranger do against Succession Ranger if they 1v1 in BA?
The Awakening is gonna win. Okay. 9 out of 10 times. Succession just has no protection. You have to obviously have, a decent amount of gear, and then hope to God that you can get a solid Razor win, coming from Succession. Like, you're able to frontal any range CC that they would do while burning them down at the same time. But you're at a disadvantage, in my opinion, because Awakened Ranger, like, just the EES spam alone, you just do that. All right, Blasting Gust is off cooldown. Let me throw that out there, go for a range CC, and then dash in for the kill.
Right. What about Ranger? Either version of Ranger versus Archer?
Mm.
Have you fought
You
General
saw the
Morris?
clip I sent you, right?
I didn't get a chance to. I watched like 2 of them. I didn't watch all of them.
I think I linked you one where I fought against Complicated Gaming, I think. BR Archer. That was before the nerfs, but just do that and you win in succession. I think I think Awakening probably has a better time.
Yeah.
It has an easier time just because there's not too many archers who like I guess like like General Morris, I would say he's the best archer, but he to an extent plays like more up close and personal. So because he's the best and you have a lot of archers that emulate what he does or they try to play up close and personal. And for a ranger, if you're not General Morris, then that works out in our favor,
Yeah. What about Kuno, dude? Everyone likes to lump Kuno in with Ninja. How did you do against Kunos?
Kunos are easy.
See, dude, I've been saying that forever. Kunos suck, dude. They need buffs.
Even Succession Kuno?
I haven't seen
with their current ability to gap close.
Yeah, you have to remember, Nayashe, he's in Cho Nation, and all the Cho Nation Kunos are still awakened because it's better in Siege. All right.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
Well, yeah, Awakening's not.
But I would say it's still a little bit better because like there's at least a window of opportunity to land a CC, whereas compared to like a ninja, you don't have that window. Right. So if I'm just spamming Fury Arrow, I know I'm gonna catch the Kuno at some point or another, and that's all I need.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I treat them the same way that I treat Tamers for the most part.
With disdain.
Pretty much.
What about Zerker?
Play this class.
What about when you're fighting a Zerker? How's that matchup?
For Awakening, I don't think it's that bad. Just avoid the Q buff. As soon as you see that, then like GTFO and wait.
Rezlar does Q buff in 1v1s too in BA.
Only when I'm trying to be in.
Yeah, avoid the
which is any time he's trying to
win. Which is basically any fighting Frosty. That's why you feel like that. Yeah, I think Ranger v Zerker is like fairly even, actually.
Yeah, I would say fairly even in that regard as well.
I think it's a pretty good matchup. Ranger has quite a few iframes, which makes it difficult for Zerker to deal with, but also Ranger can't really get like good like range on Zerker, which a lot of Rangers that I fought like to try to do, and it's just like Zerker is able to keep up pretty well with Rangers if you know how to mouse move properly.
Yeah. There's not too many classes for Awaken Ranger and again Succession Ranger that you completely stomp. Like you have 80-20 advantage kind of thing.
Now do shy
for the most.
Well, have you fought any geared / good Guardians since they've come out? I'm curious how that matchup is.
Yes, but I haven't really I haven't given it too much thought. So now if you are Awakening, you have the advantage on a Guardian. Just they're too slow to grab in your favor, you win. For Succession, it's a little bit harder because you can't even at my AP, you're not burning through their block, as fast as you would like. So they're able to close the gap on you, and they actually have a surprising amount of range. And if they catch you, then that's it. No S block for us kind of thing.
Right.
But it's hard to say. Yeah, I know. I hate it. But it's hard to say how the matchup is because Guardian, it's still relatively new. I haven't even really fought as many geared Guardians as I would like to. So between that and them still kind of learning their class, I don't necessarily know where they stand yet. And they're always they're still, I think, getting buffs and stuff. So it's they're still kind of evolving as a class.
Yeah. Fucking Guardians. I ran into one that was a nightmare for me. I mean, it's I'm playing Succession Lawn and it's it's kind of, I don't know, like I feel like the not having a grab thing is a little bit over exaggerated, but against Guardian, like you feel that shit, dude.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god.
If you fight a Guardian that knows how to mouse move their abilities really well, Deathspan is one that does that. I can't touch him effectively. It hurts. The range is too far, and when he turns it on a dime, it's just like I can't outmaneuver it very well. I have to like do some really hardcore baiting, and it's a lot of work just to get in on the Guardian, where the Guardian could just kind of sit there and do his thing. And if you get up close and personal, they just shift Q and watch you literally evaporate. At least with my DP.
Not to get off topic, but Frosty, quick question: is that Somnia leveling a character right now?
Of course not. It's Rich.
Oh, okay. Got it. What was it? I thought Somnia's family name was Venjoy, right?
So, Somnia sold his account. Or no, Jerry sold his account to Somnia because Somnia blew up his shit. Somnia recently sold that same account to Rich.
Oh, so that is
Somnia's account, yeah, or was.
No, so that's originally though.
Originally it was Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry's. Yeah. Okay, so that's why. So Somnia still has Venjoy, but it's all blown up, I'm guessing. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
He's a professional League player now, dude. He plays League full time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, people buying accounts, I'll never understand it.
Dude, so I'm trying to think how Ranger is. I'm trying to think of the way I want to phrase this. Since you're part of one of what I would consider the more whiny communities, from your
here it comes.
From your point of view, Rilok, which class do you think has it bitches and complains the most where it's like unjust?
That's a good question. I got two that immediately came to mind, but I'm not sure which one.
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy.
All right, give us both, and which one are you leaning?
Okay. The first one that I had was I know I have friends who play this class, so they're going to be so salty, and I think it's because I'm always hanging around them. But I would say warrior.
Okay.
And ninja.
That's interesting.
Ninjas are whiny.
Yes.
Okay.
From what it's not so much whiny. It's deflecting. It's like it's the okay. I killed you. Now now I'm gonna shit talk and. At any point in time, I'll be in an RBF and I'll be I'll catch a ninja and then it's immediately like, oh my goodness, Geared Ranger, you're just trash, and it's like, are you seriously what's going on here? Like, why are you upset? Or like in open world PvP, like I might use like a whale pod, and they're like, oh my goodness, whale pod, and it's like I'm on Arsha and you're a ninja. Like, what do you expect me to do?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's.
I just say, imagine rerolling the ninja and still not being good,
dude.
That's pretty much it. That's the way it is for me. It's like your class is so strong right now. Like I don't want to hear anything from you. Like if you were smart, you'd be like, oh yeah, don't pay attention to the man behind the veil kind of thing.
But, well, I do think there's with ninjas in that regard, there's a little bit of an aspect of like we are considered the most busted class, so I have to win, and when I don't, it's super frustrating. Right? I do think there's an element of that because I noticed that with Sorks
the pedestal is too high.
Yeah, the pedestal is too high because I do notice that with Sorks too. I actually have been I like the Sucklon versus Sork matchup a lot. And since I played Sork for so long, I know it really well, and I feel like every time I fight a Sork, it's just there's really no openings. I'm like, okay, dude, you're a Sork. Like, what are you talking about?
Exactly.
It's funny. I agree with the warrior. I would put warrior up there. I mean, I'd put warrior like top 5, but I think Rezlar and I are pretty aligned on this. It's got to be DK might be number 1.
Okay.
Right? I think DK is just it's crazy. Now, I do think there's been a little bit of a change in the tide where suck DKs are awfully quiet right now. Well,
yeah. They don't want to get nerfed.
Yeah, they're sitting there like
they're just
their
like, we
like,
don't exist. God. Do not look at us.
Yeah, their fingers are crossed. They're like, oh, we're not saying anything.
Okay,
I hope people forget we exist.
Hold on. So I'm lagging my dick off, by the way. So if I cut out, that's why. Okay, so you gotta set it up as a ratio, right? So you gotta look at 2 different factors, right? So your first number is how much of the community is complaining. Mm-hmm. And so for that number, there's no question in my mind, DK is the largest of that number. Like, it is like insane the amount of DKs that complain about balance and how shit their class is and everything else. Whereas a lot of other classes, like Ninja, like, it's absurd that ninjas complain, which is going to be the second number, right? Is how much the complaining is justified. But how many of them actually do it? I feel like it's more than is warranted. Way more than is warranted. Absolutely. But it's not nearly as much as DK. So you got to look at how many of the community are complaining. And then the second number is, like I said, it's how warranted is the complaints. Now for DK, complaints are warranted, right? Like, DK is, like, not great, but it's not that bad either. And it's kind of, like, in the middle ground, in my opinion, at least, of, like, yeah, like, absolutely, DK, I can definitely see some buffs, and yeah, like, there's been some really harsh nerfs in the past, but, like, these people that are like, DK is dog shit, there's absolutely nothing I can do, like, my class is dog shit, like, dude, those days are over. Like, that was, you had your time with that argument. It's past. It's no longer the case. Right. So, in my opinion, if you look at both of these values, DK is absolutely number 1, almost entirely because that first number is so fucking high. I don't think I've met a DK aside from, like, people that I know really well that are like, that don't complain about the state of DK.
They have every complaint too. We have our movement's bad because our stamina. We don't have iframes like Sork and Ninja. We have gaps in all of our skills. We're super squishy. Gaps. And our damage sucks.
So many gaps.
So if you listen to that and take all of that at face value, they're shies. They're basically shies.
Yeah, they're basically shies.
They literally are the worst at everything.
I agree with that. And I guess for me, I was looking more from, like, okay, who's complaining? Like, you know, the reason why I mentioned, like, warrior and you know, and I guess ninja is because it's like, first of all, as a ninja, it stands out more that you're complaining. Like, are you serious? You're literally god tier. There's a whole line of classes that deserve to complain more than you, kind of thing. And then as for warriors, warriors, like, again, I have friends who, you know, a lot of friends that play warrior, so I'm always hearing it. I think that's kind of why. But then at the same time, I'm also a ranger naturally, and it's like, okay, every time I get caught by one of these flank classes, I should have some, like, backline support, and that's literally your job. And because warriors, you know, especially succession warriors, they don't want to really do that. They kind of want to, I guess, have it all. I don't know, but it's like, yo, you're supposed to be in the back.
Man. They go in with their shields and fucking just try to wreck shit.
Yeah, but it's like your job is to be in the back and peel in for the ranged damage, and you're not doing that. So because you're not doing that, it's literally like rock, paper, scissors, and scissors is like just, you know, fucking paper up because rock isn't doing its job. I need you to be in the back peeling for me. That's where you're going to get all your kills, you know? Like, you can sit here and be like, oh, my movement isn't that great, you know? It's like, it doesn't have to be. As soon as you see a ninja pop out of stealth, you got a super armor grab, just use it, like, or whatever the case may be. But for me, that's kind of like why I put warrior up there. But I do agree. I think DK is kind of, you know, prior to succession, I think they kind of had that mantle of complaining a little bit more than the others.
Yeah.
But
Since we're talking about DK, they got their slanted balance got nerfed. We're gonna talk about this a little bit later, but might as well talk about it now. So slanted balance got nerfed. I'm gonna see it. Hold on, I gotta pull this up. But so slanted balance, for people that don't know, I actually forget the key command. I think it's SLMB or Shift LMB. But they do like a sword swipe, and a range like black animation comes out and floats you from really really far away, and then it has frontal guard as well, and it's really really quick. And the skill always was a protected CC, but in succession got a bunch of range. So the new iteration of it no longer CCs from range, but it still does CC and it still does have frontal guard. And man, the DK community was pissed. They were so upset about it. Like, the way they describe the slanted bounce nerf, it's like it was the only skill that they had in succession. Everything else sucks, and now they're screwed.
Except for the, one-shot melee range AoEs. And,
I'm going to try to find this.
Nothing else, though. I can't think.
I'm going to try to find this DK thread because it was too good. Hold on. It was one of my favorites. Actually, there was a DK that he was super reasonable, and it threw me off. I've never seen that on Reddit before.
Super reasonable.
Yeah.
So part of the reason we wanted to have you on this week, Rilok, we told you a little bit before we started recording, is like last week we kind of was like, Rangers complain a lot and it's not really that warranted. So just to kind of like put it in perspective, I think I said DK, or Ranger was like DK light. Basically, what I'm maintaining is that, like, going back to like the amount of people that complain, it's not as high as DK, but in my opinion, it's still like fairly
just
high
as
up.
Much.
It's still fairly high number, but not as high. And then how warranted it is also like not as it's not as. DK is more warranted in their complaints than Ranger, in my opinion, except for the S-block argument. S-block argument is the only one I will readily give Ranger.
Can I quickly sum up all of the Dark Knight's feelings across the community? I have the quote here. You guys ready?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Knock it out. Let's hear it.
Before the Succession came out, DK hasn't seen any love from the developers in a long time. Awakening hasn't been buffed in a long time and is rather weak, especially in the current meta. I'm really hoping that this specific nerf can be avoided, as it's yet another step to bring DK back into the dirt where it was before the Succession release. The only thing that nerfing slanted balance will achieve is ruining the class yet again.
So here's the thing. I get it, and you're right. Like, Rezlar, you mentioned like Rangers, we do kind of complain a decent amount, like with Rangers and DKs. The reason why is because both these classes, I feel, are gated by AP. You don't be like, it's literally like you're either kind of bottom tier or you're god tier. There's no real in between. And what determines that is, for a wide margin of it, is going to be your AP. The second you're at 290 AP, you are god tier on DK, you're god tier on Ranger, because you just do so much damage, and it's really tough for anybody, especially, in the current meta, to, do anything about that. Like, I linked Frosty a clip where I literally one-tapped somebody, granted he's an archer, but I one-tapped him, full HP, 4K, didn't matter, like, it literally doesn't matter. So when you have a lot of, majority of the communities for both Ranger and DK complaining, is because majority of the community isn't at that AP threshold. So for them, it's like, why am I getting nerfed? Like, this is, I literally have nothing. But then you have to look at it from like a high-end Ranger perspective or a high-end DK perspective. Like, I'm sure we've seen Q, like, go into RBFs and just nuke people, and then he's out like a bandit. Like, what do you do for that? It's really tough to counter that.
Yeah, he's not helping DK's case at all.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. And that's kind of, yeah.
I'm gonna push back against this a little bit. So I understand where you're coming from, and I do agree to an extent that, like, the whole scaling thing, and that, whenever these Rangers and DKs get a lot of gear, that's when they really turn on and become super oppressive. And I do agree with that to an extent. But in the same breath, you have someone like Critical, who is literally fighting people with like 220 AP and just annihilating them.
Well, okay, so
in a 1v1 close counter context, I mean, like it's
right. But if the argument is we cannot do anything unless we have 280 AP, it's factually incorrect. Don't be bad.
You gotta understand the context, though. He's talking for like Critical. What Critical does is he tries to show the potential of it in 1v1 in a very controlled environment. And yeah, it has the potential to do all the down smashing and all that crazy shit. Yeah, you can kill someone with like 200 AP, but when you're fighting people at ridiculous gear scores, it's going to be really difficult to manage to pull that off consistently. And he'll even admit that's not a consistent thing. And all it takes is, especially if you're vastly undergeared compared to your opponent, all it takes is for him to do one nice, easy AoE CC or AoE big damage ability, like a Dream of Doom, for example, and he one-shots.
Right.
That would be the context example. Like, he's just showing off, the potential skill level that you could pull off.
I'm well aware, but that's my point, is that, and this is the thing we were trying to make clear last episode, is that a lot of people, and it's not specific to Ranger or DK for that matter, it's everyone for the most part, is it's like a lot of people, whenever they lose or they're playing bad, they say, this is because my class is bad, instead of saying, this is because I am bad. And like, I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, Ranger is OP and you guys are fine and no, you should actually be nerfed. My point in what I'm saying is these people that go on like Reddit or they like die in a 1v1 and then they just start typing furiously. Like, dude, you are not at the top of your game. You're not the best at your class. So it's like, while you're absolutely in the right to be like, hey, like these changes are bad or I think that we deserve some buffs. Yeah, I can agree with that. The level at which people will blame their losses on that instead of just them not practicing and not taking the time to really learn how to play their class and how to fight, it's just insanity to me. And it really bothers me, honestly. Because as someone who was really bad, and I mean, I'm not saying I'm amazing now, but I like to think that I'm slightly above average. I was really fucking garbage. And I complained a lot about the state of Warrior, because this was back when I was playing Warrior. I was like, dude, Warrior is like really bad. It's really hard to like fight against like a lot of these classes. This is post like super armor removal. And then I was like, I rolled away from Warrior. I came back to it later and I said, you know what, instead of complaining, let me try and actually just be good at the class at the way it is now. And I was actually pretty decent. I took the time. I watched a lot of videos. I watched a lot of guides. I watched a lot of clips of just raw fights of good warriors like Hands and JR808. I just watched raw fights and watched what they were doing and was like trying to figure out what they were doing. I put in the time is what I'm saying. And then all of a sudden, instead of me losing every fight and blaming it on, well, they removed our lingering super armor and that's why I'm losing. It was like I was winning more fights, and also I wasn't complaining as much because when I lost, I was able to go, well, yeah, I messed up something there.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating for me. It's
a lot of people expect to just auto win. Yeah, this is true.
Dude, everyone, that's always been my thing. Everyone thinks that they're really good at their class and that their win rate should be like 90, 95% in every matchup. So when like even Sorks, I noticed like when Sorks don't win like 90% if you beat a Sork, even if they beat you, but it's like 60-40, they'll start like, dude, that class is pretty strong, man. Like that's actually, I don't know about that. And it's like, okay,
yeah.
Like, you just don't won, but not by a margin that you're comfortable with. It's kind of funny.
Like when Frosty dueled me, not like, what was that, like 3-4 weeks ago or something like that on his Kuno. I was like complaining about the movement being ridiculous, which to be fair, it is, but there is some adjustments that I started doing after Frosty suggested some things and like backing off once I see Tenon, like don't even give it an opportunity to cancel on me, and then it won't be as much of an issue, which was true. So yeah, some adjustments, taking advice and adjusting accordingly. That's why whenever I say whenever someone asks me what's my best matchups or whatever, there's some that are very distinctly obviously the best matchups I have, but most of the time I'll probably consider certain players my worst matchup rather than the class as a whole.
Right.
I'll look at hands, for example, and obviously my worst matchup when it comes to warrior, but I'll fight a number of other warriors. Doesn't matter if it's succession or awakening, and I can beat them. Doesn't mean I'm going to be able to do this with every warrior, but
that's
going to be some extreme cases.
I mean, in your case specifically, I remember a Maehwa friend was complaining about the Sork matchup, and I was like, I don't know, man. I feel like Maehwa's pretty good against Sork, because whenever I fight Nayashe or I see Nayashe in the AOA against Benzi, he just fucking wrecks. And then because you're sitting there practicing against a Mora all day, so now all these other Sorks are kind of just
Yeah, I mean that's just the same thing Rezlar was saying. Just sitting there learning the gaps and practice.
It's all about the time you put in, dude. That's all it is. Really.
It's also really helpful if you find someone that is really good at the matchup that just destroys you to just practice against specifically them. Don't care if you're losing, just go fight them a bunch and try to get better. Because man,
ask them to help you.
Fighting your friends doesn't always necessarily correlate to you getting better, because if your friends are garbage, well, unfortunately, you're going to be learning how to fight garbage players.
Dude, and here's the other thing that, I know, this community is, pretty toxic in a lot of ways, but, I feel a lot of times, if you just, if you're fighting somebody and it's not, a salt fest, if you just ask them, questions, I feel they'll help you out. I've had it happen quite a few times where I'm wait, is that a protected thing? What's that? After I get killed, and they're yeah, it's a protected CC, and I'm oh shit, all right. It's dude, just learn, just ask questions, just learn, just practice. You gotta put in the time. And again, I'm not I know there's people just fiercely typing their comments right now if they haven't finished already. I am not saying that your complaints are unwarranted. There can be two things true at once. There should be balance changes, and you are not at the peak of where your class could be. These two things can be true at the same time. So,
and I would add that I would add on top of that there are some cases where certain classes are just inherently a counter, even if they were technically designed to be. They will a succession warrior is something a Maehwa has extreme problems with. And I'll be the first to admit that kind of matchup. It's also based on the player. If the player fucks up, I can kill him. So.
Not now that you have Tet Blackstar, dude. Warriors are easy.
Yeah, Tet Blackstar, dude. But literally, all I would like to see, from people in the community, and I mean the community at large, but you gotta start small with a movement. So if you're listening to this podcast, hear me out. Whenever you lose a fight, instead of trying to say, why is it that my class lost that fight? Just ask, what did I do that lost that fight? And I understand that it may have been, oh, well, I lagged. Oh, maybe I desynced or something like that. Or, oh, well, that class is just fucking busted. And I feel there's nothing I can do about it. Just literally ask yourself, question yourself, what could I have done differently to make that matchup or make that fight go more in my direction? And your world will change, man. It really will.
Yeah, Rezlar, what could you have done differently in your recent video?
What could you have done differently in your class selection?
Yeah, I know. If you would have just upgraded your ISP, I think you could have done a lot better.
Dude, that's the weirdest thing. I call fucking Spectrum out here once, usually at least once every 3 or 4 months.
Hey, I've been dealing with Spectrum too.
I just get sick of it, and I'm you people have to come fix this. And they come out here and they go, no, nothing's wrong. I'm you're fucking lying to me, but I'm held hostage. There's nothing I can do about it.
I literally just got the same treatment this week. That's why my stream has been completely garbage the last 2 weekends.
Yeah, but on the note of my internet, one thing that's honestly just been way better for like me and for like my mental health is I try not to freak out as much whenever I lag like in fights. Like whenever I lag in fights, I'm just like, well, yeah, that's just normal. Like that's just gonna happen. Like, and it's about like one thing that I started doing is I never back cancel E anymore. And I used to love back canceling E because it was easier and it was a longer super armor animation. So my thought process was, oh, if I desync, then I have a longer super armor animation. I can figure out what to do next. But it was actually hurting me in that I was just dying in it a lot in the super armor animation. So now what I always do is I made an adjustment to deal with my desync. So now I always side cancel because it's faster. I always side cancel and then stomp because that action happens almost instantly, and then I can adjust from there. So like even my desync that I really like can't really account for, it strikes at a moment's notice. There's no warning. Like I try to make adjustments to deal with it, even if it doesn't work half the time. But what else am I gonna do? It's not like fucking Spectrum's gonna do anything about it. Pieces of shit. I just gotta try and work around it.
I have a closing range. Oh, go ahead, Rilok.
I was just gonna say, like on the topic of basically just kind of get good when it comes to whenever you lose fights. I don't know if a lot of people know this about like me, but I've always been kind of like that Siege Ranger. Like I literally started, on the Eden server in PRX. And then that like ended up reforming into FML and, did that up until server merge and then joined Cho. And I've been in Cho ever since. And so for me, like I've always been kind of like jetpacks in the sense of, hey, I understand my positioning better than most Rangers. I understand, range, damage, range, finishing off, people purely from a distance, peeling, all that kind of stuff. Never really took 1v1 seriously until I ran into Time Bomb and he just smacked me. Like it wasn't even close. And so instead of just raging about it or coming up with excuses or whatever, I was like, hey, teach me. Like I need to know how you did that. And he was like, all right, cool. Here, just do all this. Got into the battle arena with him. And I spent like a good 2 months just like every day, hours and hours just fighting and, learning everything from him. And Critical did the same thing around the same time, actually. So you had myself and Critical like elevating when it came to 1v1s and just Ranger as a whole. And, then a few weeks later, like, both of us are putting out videos and like, hey, here's what you do and here's how it applies. And, 1v1s in a controlled environment, that's kind of what Critical did versus me, where it's like, hey, this is what you can do when it comes to group PvP and both, GVGs and in sieges, like you can still make that work for you. And that's just a few months, like just it really does kind of come down to, honestly, sometimes you just gotta get good. Like don't expect the devs to fix something for you. If you bust your butt and figure it out, like you'll be fine.
Yeah, and if you want to tilt someone, be the weaker class that still kills them, dude. They'll be even more tilted.
Dude, right?
Yeah. be the shy.
Dude, like that's exactly it. Is the only class that literally can't win a fight in this game is shy. So unless you're a shy, it's not like you are unable to win. It's just not possible. That's not feasible. You can always win if you're good enough. Like, it's just how it is.
It leads me to my final like Ranger question before we close out officially and move on. Who is the best, like just straight up best all around Ranger in NA? Your opinion?
Best all around Ranger NA.
Like who's just like the best Ranger? Yeah.
So let me go ahead and preface by saying, like, there is not one best Ranger at anything. I think there's a handful of Rangers that are the best at something, but there's like nobody who's like, number one in every category, right?
Right.
All
right, overall, split it up then, make it a little bit easier. Who's the best large scale, best 1v1 Ranger?
Okay. So I think he still plays But in terms of 1v1s, I would give that to Senpai Yameti. That dude by himself has taught a lot of Rangers. And I guess I will say this. When you look at a Ranger, you can tell where they learned from. It's kind of weird, like, but there's almost like 3 schools of Ranger, and Senpai Yameti is one of them. Like, you have Rangers who are always lingering their super armors and all that kind of stuff. That's him. Like, that's what he does, you know? So I would say he's probably the best 1v1 Ranger. When you have the best GVG Ranger, I think that probably goes to me, just because positioning. Whereas if you're talking Siege, that's going to go to Jetpacks. Best all-around Ranger, like just, you know, every aspect, they're in the top 3, Time Bomb. When you're talking about the most knowledgeable Ranger, it's going to be Soul. Critical was up there as well, but Critical doesn't play anymore. And then obviously I would throw Critical, you know, in the 1v1 category as well. But yeah.
Okay.
This is kind of my top.
Yeah, Time Bomb. You know what's so funny too is about what you were saying earlier is like asking, or what, you know, just like ask people for help. Time Bomb's one of those people I feel like he comes off as so toxic, and he can be super toxic. But if you ask him for help, it actually doesn't even matter the class. Just tell him like you're having trouble with that matchup or whatever. Like that dude is like super helpful in BA, and like really willing to help.
Yeah, he's hella toxic. Let's not, you know, paint him in a good light.
Let's call a spade a spade.
But yes, he's one of those people that's like very loyal. I've noticed that, you know, just because like him, myself, Critical, like we still are really close. And he's somebody who, like, if you have any issues with like the class, he hates it because he's like, dude, I can't teach for anything. I'm like, dude, you taught me in Critical. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, yeah, but I just went in the battle arena and just beat y'all until y'all figured it out. And I was like, that's all it takes. That's literally the best way of teaching.
Yeah. You guys have anything else on Ranger before we go to all these weird changes that are coming?
I got something. So this will be like the last thing before we move forward. So here fairly soon, now that all the successions are out, we're gonna be looking at posting another tier list for all the classes, Awakening and Session. Mm-hmm. If you're looking at a grade of S to F, right? You got S, A, B, C, D, and F, I guess, or maybe D is the lowest because I don't think there's anything that's F except for Shy's rating in PvP. Where would you put like Ranger in that list? Do you think like it's an A tier class, a B tier class? I think in our last tier list we said it was, I think, C, right, Frosty? I think.
Yeah, C.
C or B? I can't remember.
C plus or B minus, something like that.
So where do you think you would put it, like, on that scale?
Yeah, man.
Like overall.
Overall, I would put the class square in the middle, like just middle of the pack. So I would say, like, you know, C tier kind of thing or B tier. And the reason why, like, I know is kind of like, what? Seriously? Like, you know, I've seen what Rangers can do. Again, I think when you look at people like Critical, like what he's done, you're talking in a controlled environment and you're talking about at the highest level. Like, even he'll say, like, yo, this is not something that can be replicated, you know, on demand. And then at the same time, you know, gear is also a big factor. I think like it's gated by AP. So to get to this high peak, you know, A plus kind of, you know, on the tier list, there's things that you have to have that majority of the Ranger player base doesn't. But at the same time, Ranger, I don't think is as weak as people think it is. I think it's more, again, there's you know, our counter for our class, our natural counter is just an abundance. I find whenever I do an RBF and there's like maybe one ninja or one Sork on the other team, I do extremely well. Like, I mean, I do well naturally, but it's a breeze. Like, I'm not even paying attention, you know, and I'm walking out with 2K, you know, points or something. So I feel like Ranger isn't in a terrible spot. It needs love, but it's not as bad as, you know, some people make it out to be. I just think there's just too many Sorks and ninjas. If those classes got nerfed, then it'd be, better.
Yeah, I think
sorry.
To add on to that, I think a lot of it is like when I look at my class, I think Ranger kind of has a very similar kind of approach to things. It's you don't want attention as your class. Like,
oh no,
having eyes focused on you is not good for your health. So you excel at flanking or getting behind someone or just shooting someone from outside their render range. Insert archer. But I mean, that's where you excel, and you don't want to fight people on their terms, like that's not going to bode well for your ability to win in that fight. I mean, that sounds kind of like, it's kind of cheesy, like, oh yeah, well, if you catch me from behind, that doesn't good, blah blah blah. But it's like, class is kind of designed to do something like that. It's kind of to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I've even in 1v1s, because like, again, I've always just kind of lived by the bow. A lot of people would get frustrated. Like, I think McCann's, he actually kind of got frustrated at me because I just started kiting. Like, he's so used to like, okay, fighting, rangers that are going to be more senpai and medi, like I'm going to linger my super armors. I just started kiting backwards because in my mind it's like, I'm going to force you to have to learn how to close the gap first. You're going to have to learn how to do that, and then once that happens, hopefully you're at half HP, and now we can start trading super armor and all that stuff, and that's where I should have the advantage.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to make things easy for you by immediately jumping into that, like, all right, now I'm in melee range, let's fight this straight up 1v1 man to man. Like, hell no. Like, you're going to have to work to get to me first.
And so, if you separated Succession and Awakening, would you put them both in like that middle area, both in like B or C territory, or would you put one on one side and one on the other?
So for overall, I would put. Man, that's tough. I would put. Yeah, I think I would put them in the same overall, because it's like I said, like when it comes to PvE, they're about similar. When it comes to large scale, Succession hands down is like A plus, tier. I find it's one of the strongest classes for it. But then 1v1s definitely bring it back down, kind of to that like medium tier list. But then on the opposite side of that spectrum, you have Awakened Ranger, where it's like on the 1v1 side of things, you're A plus, you're relatively strong, but in group play, you don't really bring anything to the fight. So overall, like just, adding it all up, I would put them both kind of in that middle ground.
Alrighty, cool.
I can agree.
Yeah, I agree as well, honestly.
We'll see. I'm curious. I wonder if they'll do any changes to Awakening, because they have been trending more towards buffing some of these Awakening recently. Tamer, Warrior, and Valk, and so we'll see. Yeah.
My issue with it is like, I don't think it's going to be the right kind of buffs. Like they'll buff damage to Awaken, skills, and it's like, hooray, but that's not where Ranger is struggling. It's whenever we go in to do this range or this Awaken damage, we're so squishy, like we die instantly. So can we get like a life steal, or can we get a passive heal, or can we get
like
something,
Kuno's lethal spin heal?
Yeah, like that's what we need. Like, more damage isn't going to do anything for us. We're going to go in and we're going to get wiped, and then that's it.
Or
so
it gives you that pseudo tankiness,
or HP per 5 whenever you have your swords out. Just saying. I think it's how you fix the class, honestly.
Yeah.
No, so you better leave Kuno's name out of your mouth, dude.
No, I was thinking based on what he was saying. Use like kind of like how lethal spin has the heal. Like it gives you that pseudo tankiness.
Yeah, I know. I'm just kidding.
So since he has to dive in with Awakening for sword play, that would be.
Dude, I know it'll. Again, this will never happen because they don't like to do the whole CC and protection and Awakening for most classes. But I always dreamed of Waltz having SA when it was off cooldown.
God, you and everybody else.
It reminds me.
That would solve so many problems.
Have you ever played Blade and Soul?
I haven't. I've seen gameplay of it though.
They have a class called Blade Dancer that they're I think it's tab is the hotkey, but they literally spam. It looks exactly like Waltz, and they just spam it forever because it's super armor. And like, so when I played Ranger, I was like, dude, this looks just like that. It looks so cool, and it's completely unprotected. And the cooldown is so long, so the no protection never made any sense to me.
Dude, all of our protections in Awakening. Have you seen Nature's Tremble? For the cooldown that skill has, it should do way more damage. Like,
yeah, I don't understand. Yeah, they should change the cooldowns to match the Succession ones, to be honest, for Regeneration and Nature's Tremble. The cooldown never made sense.
At this point, honestly, I just don't want to. I'd rather be out of the developer's eyes, because anytime you ask for buffs, they end up buffing the wrong thing and nerfing the right thing, and it just puts you in a worse position.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of
I
like,
got some recent notes that'll help out with giving that perspective.
No, actually, we've already been over this, man. They just do whatever you don't want, man.
Yeah, and
you just got to use reverse psychology on them to get what you want.
Next,
Like,
they'll buff New Year's Eve, which no one uses.
Like, whenever the Succession nerfs came out for Ranger, like, you know, on Global Lab and all that stuff, a lot of people were like, oh my goodness, this is the end. It's terrible. And, you know, Time Bomb hit me up and he's like, so what do you think? And I was like, dude, I'm just glad they didn't touch Penetrating Wind. He's like, I know, right? Like, they can have Charging Wind, Descending Current is a meme, you know, PUBG, you know, Prime Ultimate Blasting Gust. Like, it sucks for PvE. That really hurts. But dude, if they would have nerfed Penetrating Wind, oh my goodness. At that point, I think that's the one skill where if that gets nerfed, I will re-roll off. Like, that's kind of the final straw for me.
It's funny. I was talking to Time Bomb about it. Like, he was merking into the guild, and I think we were in a 1v1 against Brutal. And it wasn't even long. It was like 45 minutes. And Time Bomb was like 73-3. And I was like, so Succession, because Anfield in his video right after came out, I was like, Ranger has been bricked. And I was like, oh, God. Oh, it's so dramatic, dude. So, yeah, it's, you know, this is a lot of babies, that's all.
I wanted to add a topic, by the way, Frosty, that we forgot about.
All right.
It's the infographic.
Oh, right, okay. Do you have it?
I was looking for it and I could not find it. I don't know if anybody has it, maybe in the Discord somewhere.
It should be on the website somewhere. I think on the
That's a good.
Yeah, probably on the
That's
front.
a good idea. I probably should have checked that instead of read it.
All right, let's see.
Oh,
let's go through the simple stuff first. So let's get to Seasons after, because Seasons is yeah, so let's talk about Garma's Heart real quick, because we already know it adds a socket, but I don't think we knew until it was out on Korea that it added 2 sockets, or what crystals you can put. There's been screenshots of corrupted crystals in the Dandy. So if you use inverted Garma's Heart, put in your Awakening weapon, your Dandy specifically, you get 2 crystal slots. And
3% crit damage buff.
And 3% crit damage buff. And it looks like currently, I don't know if I heard it was a bug, and then I heard other people say it's intended, but it looks like you can use both the versatile crystals or offhand crystals in it for whatever reason. So there's some screenshots of corrupted crystals in there. And then I think the 2 new crystals actually are exclusive to the Awakening weapon, right? I don't think you can put them in anything else. So,
yeah, they're exclusive.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing, because on one hand I was like, oh cool, 2 crystals. That means with the new crystals you can get 6 accuracy and 10 human damage, but I don't think that competes with 4 AP and 20% more crit.
No.
Yeah, I think that has to be a bug. That would be too much damage. Could you imagine some classes like a fucking DK?
I mean, it's like
20% additional crit damage.
You'd be required to use it also in PvE. Like that's just so much damage.
Way too much damage.
Yeah, I kind of hope that's not the case. So we'll see. It doesn't really make sense for the offhand crystals to fit in there, because like I don't know.
Dude, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Sure you will, you
300 AP Ranger, just,
with
40%.
Yeah, with 4 corrupted crystals, we have 40% crit or 44% critical hit. Yeah, that'd be great.
I'll take that.
That's the other thing too, is would you get the set bonus twice if you have 4 crystals? Like, that's another reason why it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
Probably not, because of how the homes in Max are designed. You don't get additional set bonuses if you put more than the 4.
Right. That's the other thing too, is like I don't want it in there because at least with the other crystal they're good, but you can still kind of decide, like, you know what, for my build it'll make more sense if I put the Hooms in my awakening weapon. But if you have the corrupted, you're like basically forced. You have to use that shit, so I don't know.
Well, I don't know though, because aren't they coming out with well, like the Garmot's Heart in your awakened weapon, would that also give you special attack evasion?
No. So it gives you 3% crit is the automatic like thing it gives you when you put just by putting the heart in, you get 3% critical hit damage and 2 sockets.
However,
well, regardless, we're also getting those new elixirs as well. So
I was gonna say we get the new elixirs and the perfume that gives special attack.
Yeah. Oh yeah, wait, special attack those are only in chests though, right? The blue crystals we have currently? Okay, I was gonna say that would be crazy.
Yeah.
Put that in awakening weapon too. Now you have 40%.
Oh god.
That'll negate those corrupted crystals real fast.
Yeah.
Easily.
I found it, by the way. I linked it in chat.
Okay. The infographic. Alright, let's talk here. Let me pull it up real quick. Let me switch. I got a red shard.
So this year they only did 4 cities for some reason. I don't know what that's about. But it's basically, it's not the whole population, but it's like a demographic or a representative population, basically. So take that with a grain of salt. But there were several surprising things about this, such as DK is apparently the most played class, which is interesting considering how much they fucking whine about how terrible it is. And also Archer is the least played class, which is like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple problems with this class distribution. One, it doesn't consider alts and people that couponed and whatnot. It just considers classes made.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing with this, right?
That makes sense.
If it was like classes that, and I don't even think it'd be that hard to do just based on like playtime, but if they did class distribution based on like every account's most played character, then it would kind of make sense. Or like most played character in 2019. That would make sense. But
yeah, they're just like outright saying, "Oh, well, all these particular."
I think Nayashe's upset because 3.93% of the population plays Meiwa, which is above like 5 other classes. And he's like, that.
Well, it's pretty funny considering how Meiwa is like the least played siege class, and then on top of that, it, still being 3.9. Clearly, we have a lot of life skillers.
Dude,
what do you think they deserve to be?
Meiwas are slowly becoming the most whiny class in the game, actually.
I would say Meiwa's population is not lower than Tamers, but I don't think Tamers is at 3%. I think that's bullshit too. But I don't know. It's fairly low.
I'm honestly surprised Berserker's that high. I thought it was gonna be like second to last, only in front of Shy. That's honestly what I was expecting.
I thought
is this total for all regions or
no? This is only 4 cities. There's only 4 cities.
No. It's not the 4 cities. That is their way of saying they're comparing the amount of characters made is equal to the population of those 4 cities. That's all those 4 cities mean. Do you see what I'm saying?
I don't.
Yeah, it says total characters 10.6 million, equal to LA, Paris, Auckland, Vancouver, and then below that says equal to the population of the above cities combined. It's not saying it's the characters from those 4 cities. It's saying like if you look at the total actual population of those 4 cities, it's 10.6 million, which is how many characters are made. They're just doing a weird comparison to be like, look how many characters are made. It's like all these cities IRL. That's all.
Right, but is the class distribution is those characters, is it not? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's those 10.6 million characters, yeah. But I think that I'm
so
pretty
it's
sure...
only those 4 cities.
No, those 4 cities are just an
it's
analogy.
Just a population comparison.
Yeah, it's just a population comparison. It's like saying, hey, our game has 3.6 million players. That's like the number of people in Los Angeles. That's what this is.
Yeah.
Those cities,
okay.
those cities are irrelevant. That's just like an analogy.
Yeah.
I was misunderstanding then. Okay, got it. So
Yeah.
I'm small.
They were trying to give you context as to how many players or how many characters that is in terms of actual people.
Now, I don't know is this NA and EU or just NA? Does anyone know if the EU website
really
has
say?
Yeah, it doesn't say. I wonder if the EU website has a different infographic. I guess that would be the way to find out. But or maybe it's everything.
I'm a little upset.
Oh no, this is NA and EU because it talks about North America Calpheon and Europe Calpheon. So this is NA and EU combined, this whole thing. Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
I feel like I don't quite remember like last year's, but I feel like this is a lot less than last year's. Like a lot less like information.
Oh, it's way less information. They kept it way simple this time. By the way, I do think the Zerker number is kind of an indictment if you think about it. Because if you look at on the left side, Dark Knight obviously was the most popular class for a long time, right? Like just its style, how strong it was, all that shit. So I could see why so many Dark Knights were made, but Zerker was out since the very beginning, and it's like way at the bottom of the list. Like if this is total characters made of all time, that actually is like pretty pitiful.
It's the lowest class of all the release classes.
People don't even make Zerker alts, dude, for life skilling.
No, they don't.
That's
what I'm saying. Mewa's population is probably mostly life skilling. We got the vacuum Zerker, we got the 2 vacuums.
People do not like Zerker. I mean, how long have I tried to convince you to hop on a trial Zerker and I'll show you like the base so you can have a basic understanding of the class, and you just refuse to do it.
Dude, here's
hate Zerker.
Here's what they should have done. You know how the weather, it's like, all right, it's 97 degrees outside, feels like 105 because of humidity or whatever. This class distribution should have shown this, and then underneath what it feels like, and then put Ninja at 50%, Sork at 49%, and then all other classes at 1%.
Basically.
Let's see. Fury Carax, Bill 876.
Am I the only one who's like really shocked that Archer is the lowest? Like, I was blown away when I saw that. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't think that's true at all. That's what I'm saying. I think it's not including mains, because there's a lot more archers in there than that lets on. There's a lot more archers out there than there is lawns. I can guarantee that for fucking sure.
I think more archers than Kunos too.
And you're gonna sit there and say there's more shies than archers, lawns, and guardians? Maybe guardians because it's new, but
yeah, guardians I understand because it's literally like a 3-week-old class, right? So I get that, but
well, in fairness with shy, a lot of people do have like shy alts for life skills.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not a true representation of what people play. It's just
for sure. The boat thing is, who cares? Black Star weapons 21,500. I don't know. That's who cares? Like the information on this is like
it's so much. Who cares?
The largest siege since the 3rd year anniversary, North American Calpheon, June 2nd, 2019. 1,900 players on Calpheon. I do not remember that.
The guilds.
Yeah, I wish it showed the guilds too, because like who the hell was there and why? Why were there so many people on Calpheon?
Gotta go through Reddit to figure this crap out.
Yeah, that must have been when Versatile had to hand off to Haste.
There's this rare moment every once in a millennia where I'm sitting there going like, damn, this kind of sucks. And then I'm like, well, it's probably just me being pessimistic again. And then I go and look in the community, and no, everyone pretty much agrees it sucks.
What?
And this is that moment.
Wait, what? What sucks?
The infographic compared to like last year.
Yeah. No, it's horrible.
Like last year. I mean, I only vaguely remember, but last year had some pretty cool stuff on it from what I remember.
Yeah, they showed pens made, T9s made. They showed which guilds had the most node wins, which guilds had the most siege wins, like all sorts of cool stuff.
I think actually somebody on EU they just went out of their way and they made that like themselves. Since this one kind of sucked, yeah, on Reddit, it's actually nice. It's like
when today
do their job for them. I saw it on Reddit today. I think. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's right here.
Link it. Let's see.
I got it.
This is based on what? Just.
Oh shit! I'm gonna die. Oh fuck. Oh, okay, we're good.
Imagine dying at mansions.
Yikes.
Just kidding.
I am at Secrea. Thank you very much.
Are you?
I don't know why I'm lying. Okay. I'm not.
Oh my. Okay. How tiny is this? A graph for ants?
It's really long. That's the issue. It's like super fucking long.
All right, 4th anniversary hall. Someone made this? Oh, this is only for EU, huh?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Well, it's the EU guy who made it, so
right. That makes sense.
Should have just made it on a website with a cascading.
Dude, this is cool though. I like this. For the people who can't see what I'm looking at, they have like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 node war wins in the top 3 guilds in each. Siege, top 10 siege participation, sovereign number 1, and then VOS, and then delirium or delirium. I don't speak EU.
I think it was supposed to be delirium, but they had it be.
Yeah.
Created by Diona Cranjul from the guild Unpredictable.
Most regions conquered. Number 1, sovereign with 19. Number 2 is unpredictable, or yes, 15, and number 3 is unpredictable at 14. Dude, yes is I like Yes's logo. Dude, just a check mark. It's kind of cool. It's a cool guild. Balano siege participation. This is cool. We need one of these for NA, please. Somebody.
Yeah, do one for NA, EU guy.
No, not the E. I mean, fuck, if he could get that info, that'd be crazy. This is created by Diona. That's cool. Caterpillicious.com. What is that? That's where it says the stats are provided from. Dude, this artwork on here is pretty cool, too.
Yeah, they did a really, really, really good job.
All right.
High quality shit.
It's HQ stuff, dude. All right,
I'm gonna high quality H2O.
I'm gonna pull up Kimo's video here. We're gonna talk about Blackstar armor of the Dead God. So he actually did 2 videos. One where he does the quest get Blackstar armor. That's pretty straightforward, and then the other one where he's enhancing his armor of the Dead God. Which I don't know. More and more, it's starting to look like it's actually super easy to get.
Wait, can you post that video?
Yeah, I'm going to link it in chat. Let me find it real quick. Oh, I have to... Sorry.
Got my pen tree armor ready for it.
Yeah. Dude, are you C10 already?
Not yet. Working on it, though. I'm not too far off.
What is your DP?
I'm only 324. I gave up a decent amount for Tet Distortion.
Yeah.
Worth.
Could see.
But that's just more Caphras. I can do that. They're just so pricey right now.
Dude, one day we should do an Anthem podcast, Rez. All right, here we go.
What the fuck did you just say to me?
Dude. All right. Oh, I should link it to you like I said I was going to do. Hold on. Here you go.
Thanks, guy.
Okay, so this dude's enhancing. He made the armor of the Dead God, so he has the base one. To make the armor of the Dead God, you need sharp, hard, and 10 Kaphra stones and a massive pure magic to make the stone to do an enhancement attempt. And the enhancement chances are like not that bad. So he's enhancing it to pry on a 59 or 60 stack here, and it's a 13% chance, which isn't that bad. I think a base one is basically equal. Base is equal to C9. Pry is like C12 C12 and Duo is C20. Pen dim tree. That's the equivalent. So yeah, he fails this probably a few times. That's the thing too, is like when it does fail, like you lose those Kaffir stones, the sharp, hard, the mass, the 10, and then
that just hurts the soul.
And 30 durability. Every fail is 30 durability loss.
30 durability, god damn.
Yeah. But I feel like maybe it's just me, but I'd be pretty content with just getting it to Duo and then slowly doing try over and over. To protect, I forget. He protects the. Oh, and it can, if it fails, it can downgrade all the way back down to 0. Well, not 0, but like base or whatever, because it goes from base, pry, duo, try, tet, pen. So if you fail a duo attempt, it'll actually go back down to base.
What?
Are you serious?
Yeah,
that's rough.
I'm pretty sure I said that as a meme last week. They're actually doing that?
Yeah, so to protect the duo attempt,
Cron stones.
It's 1,500 crons. To protect try.
Shocker. Buy more costumes, you cucks.
Yeah, to protect try, it's 2,100. But I still think if you use a proper stack, it's not that bad. So he goes for duo here on a 132, and it's a 14.2% chance. So if you have a pretty high stack, I feel like duo is somewhat manageable.
Yeah, but what about the rest of them?
Also on this armor, and I don't know if this is exclusive to KR or new just because of this armor, or that's how enhancements are going to be. When you click enhance, it tells you have a low chance and makes you type in the number fail stack that you're using to confirm that you're aware.
Yeah, that's in Global Labs.
Yeah.
That's in Global Labs, yeah.
So he keeps typing 135 failing.
I can tell you that that's super annoying when you are trying to build up your Global Lab gear, because you just want to spam all the 100 stacks.
Right.
So every time you want to enhance it further at a lower level, that's not try attempt, I think it is, or at least pass try with a 100 stack. It'll prompt you. It's fucking obnoxious.
So do you guys think, if you happen to have this at base, would you be protecting the duo attempt, or would you just let it go back down? Because the thing is, like, you basically need like a 70 or 80 stack minimum to go for pry if you want the chance to be reasonable.
What's the cost? What's the cost of the crons?
You need 1,500 to protect duo attempts.
Fuck me.
I know, dude. It's so expensive.
3 billion for a duo attempt?
Well, 1.5 bill. Everyone can get costumes from the market. So he hits it. He goes for pry now on a 76 stack later on. It's a 17.2% chance. He one taps.
How strong is base in comparison to a normal pen armor with Kaffirs?
Base is a C9 dim tree. Pry is C12, I believe, or C13, and duo is C20.
Oh my gosh!
Plus, it has that monster damage reduction, dude. This might be what I go for next.
This is definitely what I go for next.
Right? Like it doesn't seem that hard now. So there's 2 ways to make it. You can either have Pen Blackstar and 8,000 Kaffir stones, and you can make the armor of the dead god, or a Pen Dim Tree that's C10 and a rare drop at Thorn Tree Forest, which is the 278 AP spot. I don't know how common that rare drop is, but it is marketable, and the base price is 114 mil. So it seems like it wouldn't be that impossible to get.
This armor would be cancer for me. I'm such a casual. That would be so awful for me to get.
Just to confirm, the Dead God armor, does it come with like the 3 gem slots or whatever? Or...
No, it's 2. It's 2. The 3 was for BDO Mobile.
Oh yeah, BDO Mobile getting everything good.
Dude, 3
they get
slots
the arenas. They get 3 sockets in their fucking armors.
Dude, I even heard Ranger on mobile has S-Block.
It's true, dude. It's true. I don't know, dude. The mobile is so different. I can't really compare. I hate BDO Mobile. I did not like it at all.
Jesus. This makes you burn through your 70 and 80 stacks like it's nothing.
Yeah.
That's just cancer to think about.
This gear, man. This is Ugh.
Yeah.
So much.
But that shit will help you grind all those high-end spots now because it has monster damage reduction too. That's one of the reasons I'm actually motivated to get it.
That's obviously essential piece moving forward, but fucking Christ almighty.
I'll just melt all my reroll costumes, dude. Easy. I'm gonna have to pick a class. Oh no. Let's see, what else did we have here? Oh, seasons. All right. So seasons is insane. And there's a lot of information I don't know. Maybe someone else does.
Oh, there's a lot of questions I got about some of that stuff, but
yeah. So I'm gonna give the base premise for seasons, and then we'll get everyone's opinion. And if you guys know anything about seasons and can correct it, that'd be great. I'm gonna show this stock footage that again Chemo put up. Let me find it. Hold on. Where did he do this one? Shit. Where was it?
it's hard to shift through your search history with all that porn, huh?
I'm looking at his YouTube page, but yes. Also separately, yes.
Dude, so if we have seasons now in BDO, how long do you think it's gonna be until we get a battle pass?
Oh god.
What's a battle pass do? I'm out of the loop.
Dude, it's all the rage in video games now. Everyone is doing seasons and battle passes. Like literally everyone. It's nutty, man. It's like very common to see in games now. So the whole idea of the battle pass is, hey, we're gonna give you free shit for doing like these like certain activities in game. But also, if you spend like $20, you'll get even more and better shit.
Don't give them
the
any
whole idea
ideas
behind it. Dude, I'm actually surprised they haven't made it yet. I'm actually surprised.
All right, I linked it in the chat for you guys. So this is the video. It's all in Korean, so kind of tough to make out. But basically, while this is playing in the background, I'll give the gist of it. You have a season. I don't know what the exact duration will be, but you make a new character on your same account. It's not a separate account. The character will be marked in your character list. It'll have a little icon next to it, so you know that that is a seasonal character, not a normal character. And you... Oh, he does do English subtitles for this. I don't know how detailed it is, though. But you make a character, you're separate from everyone else. Like, you're only with other seasonal characters, just like everything else. The whole purpose of it is, in their words, is to make it easier for new players to catch up. But I also think an added benefit of it, if it ends up being pretty good, is that veteran players, like us, can actually play with people that are starting out and actually feel like you're playing with them and not like, yeah, I normally grind Secrea, but sure, I'll come help you at Fogans. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
actually be able to start with people, which is kind of cool. But yeah, so there's a certain period of time you're playing, and you have this weird gear that's not actual gear that you enhance to progress. So you can grind up, get this weird gear, and it has a lot higher enhancement chance, or at least a higher enhancement chance, so you can gear up like a lot easier. Once it's like full pen, you're basically equal to full tet armor and weapons with tri-accessories, I believe.
Yes.
And then you get like rewards at the end, and then you move over your character, your experience, and all that stuff to live. Now, I don't know exactly what happens with the items or the type of items or what you can get. You know? Okay.
So, based on the patch notes and whatnot that they said in Global Labs, that basically your items are then, when you go from seasonal character to non-season, because at the end of the season, they convert all characters that are seasonal to non-season. Your gear is also then converted to actual real live gear. I'm saying live as a representation of normal servers, so normal gear.
Right.
How that's going to actually happen, it hasn't really been explained yet. Whether or not it, for example, the armor gets turned into tree armor, or the weapons get turned into respective Zarkas and Dandies. Not really sure on that. So that's where a big question is, but they do say specifically that the gear itself will be turned into normal gear.
Right.
So that's how that will work. Now, there's some questions I have on that piece, but I don't know if you want me to go into other aspects.
Well, so I'm pretty sure they said that it will be the like base boss armor. So it'll be Gaia, Dimtree, Muskins, and Begs is what it converts over to.
Okay, yeah.
And then accessories, it'll convert over to like an ogre, Tungrat earring, crescent ring, and Bassi belt. Like the base normal, like nothing special, but those ones. What were your questions? Yeah, because there's a lot of things that are like, I'm sure the questions are all answered, or a lot of them are answered, but it's just hard because we don't have it, and it's on Global Lab, and like there's so much to it that it's hard to tell.
The only way to really answer these is to see how it works when a seasonal character is brought over from season to live. So basically, my question would be like, this gear that gets turned into normal gear, how is that going to work if it is in fact being turned into normal gear, like what you said, the bags, the tree, and whatnot? How is that working in terms of, can you just sell it on the marketplace? Or is it like how the tri gear that they're giving out soon will be, where you can just vendor it for X amount of silver? Is that something that veteran players are basically going to be like easily able to enhance that gear up the pen, and then just no longer playing that character, wait for it to go to normal server, and then they just sell all that gear for 10 billion plus for free gains? Like, that'd be my only real concern, is like veteran players abusing it, because it's intended for newer players. So those would be my only questions.
I have a feeling, I mean, I don't know, obviously. I know just as much or as little as you guys. But if I had to guess, I'd say it's probably going to be like, essentially, you're starting over from the beginning, like vanilla.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you're not going to have your bank. You're not going to have all of your shit that you normally have, probably, unless you swap to a normal character. Like, that's how I'm assuming it would be. Otherwise, like, people with 20 bill in the bank are just going to get pinned in a day, like you were saying, and then they're done.
You're starting from scratch. You're starting completely from scratch.
Yeah, they do start from scratch, but like what Frosty said, is the enhanced chance is significantly better, and on top of that, the seasonal server acts like Olvia, except there's no cap on the level. So, for example, they can level up with that enhanced level up experience all the way to 63 plus.
Right.
Depending on how long the server is. Now, mind you, that's a lot of fucking grinding, but
that's what I was gonna say. Like with your fear that they're gonna come over, sell it for a bunch of bill, and it's like easy to get. I just don't. Let's just say you do the equivalent thing on our server, you're way better off, even with lower enhancement chances, because you can actually grind. Like, the amount of time it's gonna take you to get to a place where you're so efficient that you just get all your shit maxed out, it's still going to take a long time that you would have been able to do it quicker on live. And
yeah, I'm just saying, depending on how they do it and how easy it is to enhance, that would be the only concern I have. Now, if it's like building up a normal account, you just have a little bit better enhance rate chance, or like double the enhance rate chance.
Well, even
that probably won't be a big deal.
Even if it's a lot, it's capped at Tet armor, weapons, and tri accessories. That's the highest they can go.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, worst case scenario, veterans are coming over with Tet boss gear and tri of the old gold accessories, which is like, these days, most people are going for Volterra, Tungrat, or whatever anyway. I don't know. Yeah. I don't think that part will be that big a deal. I'm kind of curious a couple things. One, how is weight and inventory slots going to work?
Oof. God, yeah, that's a good one.
Because am I going to have to buy weight and inventory slots on a new character on a new account like that? That part kind of blows.
Ask that question.
Yeah, they haven't really answered that on existing characters.
Yeah. You know what their answer is already.
I mean, like, I guess it kind of makes sense, right? With any new character, you have to do that. But what about my CP and my energy? How does that transfer over? If I actually get my CP and energy up on a character, do I get some of that experience when it moves over? Like, how does that work?
That's a good question too. Yep.
What's the point of Olvia servers if they're having this?
Yeah, is the family shit, does that seep over into seasons? I understand it to probably be no, but if it does, that would be an unfair advantage veteran players have.
I'm also curious about like more of the global Pearl stuff. So like weight and inventory, obviously, like you'll probably have to get that. But what about if I have a tent on normal server? I don't have a tent on this server. Do I have to buy a tent on this server and move it over? Like, how does that work? Or if I use a value pack on this server, or is there even a market on this server? Or is it like all self-enhanced and it's like easier to get everything? Like, yeah, there's a lot of things. I have no idea.
There's gonna be a
weird.
massive window where I think like when this first, rolls out, where it's just kind of like the Wild West, because like everything that we have questions on, I feel like they haven't even thought about, like.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have veteran players that are just gonna go over there and milk it,
I just have a hard time believing it's going to be better overall, like time investment than just playing on a high level character. I think it would be for like obviously newer players, but I feel like I don't know. We'll see, dude. I will legit start a new character with a group of friends. I think that'd be kind of fun.
I feel like a lot of the newer players that, just come on live servers now have it pretty good. Like, have you seen the attendance reward today? Like, are attendance rewards still going to be a thing over there? I'd imagine so, but how is that going to work?
Yeah. I know the attendance awards are nuts. And like, even the ones we get currently plus the returning player ones are kind of... Oh, we're getting inventory today, dude. 8 inventory slots today. Yeah, I don't know. And pets too. Pets is another one. Like, do I need to get a whole new set of pets on this server? Because I don't really need pets when I come back, so it won't benefit me later. Like a new player I could see, but like a veteran player.
And do those transfer over?
Yeah.
Maybe they give you like some like basic pets or something.
Let's say in a hypothetical world, a season is 12 weeks, like 3 months. So a season is 3 months. You make a new character, you start from scratch. You're capped at like Tet and Try. And new players, it kind of helps them. You can make silver. Your silver transfers over. The items transfer over, and it doesn't fuck the economy. Like Nayashe is saying, they come up with a balance. This is a hypothetical world. Would you guys play in seasons, or probably just not at all?
Probably not at all for me.
Me personally, probably not at all. But it depends. Like, if I have friends that want to try out the game, I might, as like a part-time kind of thing, whatever. But not to like actually truly invest into it. I got too many gains to get, bro.
Same.
I got to get up my 24,000 monster kills per month.
So trying to look at like one of the well, so first I actually think it'd be really fun to play. I don't know how into it I'd be, but it would be a cool way to try a new character. Like I think I'd make a warrior on seasons and level it up. But this is just like looking at it with pure positivity. If it ends up working out okay, if it'll be really nutty if 12 weeks goes by and when it transfers over, like the influx of new players and gear and people into the economy on live server will be kind of nuts.
Oh yeah,
right.
Seasons would be like prime time for market explosions.
That would be a cool phenomenon just to see how that plays out.
Like overall, I think the concept is great. I just had some small concerns that probably, like you said, aren't really much of an impact at all.
But very well could be. People find exploits. That's what they do online.
Yeah, I know. That's why I just mention it as something to think about. Like, because there are people that are really efficient or like with their setups and they can just make fucking billions without any effort. But I think it's overall an amazing idea, something that I believe has been floated around before on Reddit and stuff like that, having seasons. I know I've seen something like that before, but I think it's a great idea to get some new life into the game, especially for newer players or people that just want to try out different classes. It even might just be an option for that,
Right.
Rather than necessarily doing trial characters, maybe they just want to, experience it or do level up with friends without it impacting their actual account or feeling like they're ahead. They can go along with their friends being at, Pepega gear together.
I do think it's cool. I mean, the idea of like a new player can come in and at worst they're against someone in Tet boss gear and try accessories in their grind spot is that part's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that's a really good and healthy thing for the game. And the other thing is, I don't know if you mentioned this, you might have, maybe I just didn't hear you say it, but these seasonal characters can go between the seasonal servers and normal servers at any point in time. It's just they only become completely normal characters after the season ends. Did you mention that earlier?
No, what do you mean they can go between them?
They can go into the normal server at any time. They don't have to go into the season server.
Oh, I see.
It
so
says
like
it in the global lab notes.
So the marketplace is the same?
No, well, I don't know about that, but probably I would assume it's probably the same. But let me hold on, let me pull up the notes for you. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Basically, what I mean is they're not restricted to the season server only. Like they can go to a normal server. But hold on, let's pull it up.
They don't have memory fragments or anything, so how would that work with the marketplace being there?
Let me see.
They enhance with a new material.
So it's season characters can enter both season server and general server. When you create a character, you can create a character that can access the season server through the season character creation. But and this talks about all the gear and whatnot. And season servers operate at regular intervals. The end date will be announced through a separate notification. When the season server is terminated, the season character will be converted to a normal character. Season-specific gear that has successfully hardened on a season server will be converted to a regular server gear at the end of the season. When you switch to the normal server equipment, it will be converted to the season character created state. So yeah, I mean, what I said initially is basically season characters can enter both season server and general server.
What would they be doing on general server if they can't really?
World bosses?
Maybe just to interact with people.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, world boss, I guess, or scrolls, run scroll. No,
yeah,
because you don't even need to run scrolls.
A bunch of season characters trying to do a boss. Be like Zarka's OP again.
That is interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully it's good. I mean, something to get new players where they don't feel like they're totally overwhelmed at the start would be kind of cool. Could use some new players.
Are they expecting that much of an influx in like new players though? Because I mean, I feel like most veteran players are gonna be like, "Hey, I got gains that I can make on the live server," and then it's like, this is more, I don't know, geared towards new players.
Yeah,
but
most definitely.
I don't know.
I mean, if
my
they do,
is like,
look at it this way: they did the free accounts again, and
yeah, we had a bunch. I
mean,
right now
channels are crowded on both NAEU. So there's people that are interested in the game. They just don't necessarily have the time to invest to get caught up. I think this is a way to help bridge that gap.
My concern is, I guess it's more of kind of almost splitting the population in a sense, where it's like you're gonna have just too many people. Like you're gonna have half of them that's like really like, all right, I'm fully invested in the live server, and then a lot of these newer players who normally would, you know, be on the live server, maybe on the Olvia channels, all that kind of stuff, are gonna go to this, and it's like, so are we getting rid of those Olvia channels or what?
No, well, no, the Olvia channels will still be there, I think, for because you have to create a season character.
Yeah, and they're still returning.
But if you're a veteran player returning, the Olvia channel is for you. If you have been out of the game for 30 days.
The other thing too is like, since like Nayashe was saying, they can still interact on our servers with us. It'll be separate, but not that separate. Also,
yeah,
I do think when they release this, because it's kind of a huge change and seasons are a thing. Like every whatever every website that writes about MMOs and shit will probably pick it up, and I imagine they'll do like an ad campaign, so there'll probably be a big influx of new players. And I actually do think a lot of veterans would play it. I have some friends that definitely want to play a new character on a new server with only new players.
Yeah, and it gives it that quote unquote we started over, everyone's at relatively equal gear kind of feel too when you're on the season server. And the other thing is, like, if you're a season character, you switch over to normal server, you're not going to get the materials or the armor pieces that are for season characters. So in order to actually progress, you need to be on the actual season server.
Maybe it'll keep people out of Starzen so I can grind in peace.
Well, I mean, I look at it this way: for newer players, it's a quick way for them to get caught up, and then they have, you know, relatively equivalent gear, as far as like quote unquote old soft cap is concerned. And on top of that, they're not going to get bullied out of grind spots from veteran players that have vastly more gear that they have no chance of winning, which would discourage them from wanting to play if it happens too often, you know? Imagine you go to every grind spot and you're just getting kicked out by someone that's just more gear than you, and you can't make any gains.
I don't have to imagine what do you do? This still happens to me.
Yeah.
I still run into these 300 AP unkillable succession rangers, dude.
I don't know about all that.
Dude, what are we supposed to do when rangers have armor of the dead god and they're really unkillable? God damn.
Man. Even better, you know, you fight a succession ranger with all that AP, but beforehand they set up a whole bunch of guild traps before they attacked you, so they bait you in.
Yeah, have you ever thought about that? I mean, right, like, have you tried that in BA, just setting down stun traps
I've tried
for 1v1s?
I've literally tried everything. Yeah, bro, in open world PvP, I've tried that shit. I've literally, like, you know, just to see if it's a viable strategy against like Sork and Ninja kind of thing. Like, if I can, because so I was at Starzen on at our show or whatever, and I forgot who the ninja was or whatever, but I was like, all right, I'm gonna, you know, the mobs will pop the I guess the stun traps or whatever, so that kind of sucks. But I was like, all right, I'm gonna put it in this area where like nobody's just gonna, you know, like kind of no horses or anything. You're gonna walk, like randomly go there. It's literally like a pit of traps, pretty much. And I'm just like, I'll just kite them back here, and as soon as they get stunned, it's GG. It literally didn't work against the ninja. He just iframed through it all. I was like, well, that sucks.
Well, so one thing you could do that might work is the crippling trap. You can at least fuck their movement speed up pretty good, you know?
God.
Yeah, I might have to try that one. But he just iframed through all of it. Like I had the traps. I tried to put them as random as possible, and it didn't matter. It was like, well,
yeah, the crippling trap will be pretty good versus it, because at least they won't be on top of you right away, so you can still pelt them and kite. But it works pretty good versus Musamewa. When in Siege, some guilds have used it before to stop like Valencia Siege. Huh?
Y'all aren't busted classes.
That's fair.
All right, comments? You guys ready for comments? Are you able to stay? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, do you want to plug your stuff? Where can people find you and shit on if you're streaming or your YouTube?
Let's see. So I guess for Twitch, it's gonna be twitch.tv Rilok_II. So that's, you know, 2 eyes or whatever. And then for YouTube, that's gonna be just Rilok919. And yeah.
Okay.
That's all your BDO Ranger content
you could ever need.
It's trash at best. Trust me.
Nice. All right, you ready, Rez? I'm gonna read these.
Yeah, we're good.
Oh
wait, I did want to say one thing really quickly. After last video, there was a lot of people that were very supportive, both in the Discord and in the comments. So thanks a lot for all the kind words from the people, just being nice. It's very much appreciated.
Lord X says, great episode. Balance changes seem interesting. PS4 and Xbox merged last week, and there was a pen sisal sitting on the PS4 market. I bought that straight away, bringing me back to #1 gear score EU console at 605. Give me Cafris XD. On top of that, the reroll coupons finally came out, so my wizard is retired and having a lot of fun on my full pen ninja. I'm sure you are, dude. God damn. Yeah, they don't have Cafris stones on consoles still, which means they probably don't have Dregan either.
They don't have Caffers? Really?
No, yet. It's so funny. They have like a bunch of full pen people on those consoles and no Cafris stones. Anawari says, bind a frowny face half circle on PS4 touchpad. Please, please, no, I'm a PS4 player. Hadouken OCX says, Rezlar, please make a podcast about Mystic Suck PvP with Frosty. Mystic is on EU and NA out for days. We need info about that. Is it good? Is it bad for PvP? Is it trash? And please make new tier ranking. What class is good? What class is bad? S+, S, B, C, stuff like that. The last one is super old. Thank you and sorry for my potato English. Yeah, Rezlar. When are you making that, dude?
Dude, when am I making that? I don't know. Tier lists, like I said, I've said this before, we're gonna give some time for people to figure out, more properly figure out their successions, especially the latter ones like Guardian succession and Guardian in general, because that shit just came out. So probably next month. Next month is when we'll do another tier list, because that'll give plenty of time for people to figure out Guardian and how to PvP with it and stuff like that. So,
and the Striker Mystic changes are going to be significant this week, so we'll see if that's actually viable.
So probably next month, barring anything crazy going on, like if they radically change the PvP system again. Expect one next month, I'm thinking.
Yeah, and we have a hold on, let me find the episode number so I don't mistake it. We have an episode where we brought a Mystic on, so you can hear all about Mystic.
It was 2 episodes ago, wasn't it?
Was it 2 episodes? Or 3?
I think so. So no. I think it's 50.
No, it was a few episodes ago, because we did hold on. Or maybe this is just out of order. Lonsug. No. Where is this shit? Here we go. Episode 49.
49, I was close.
49, we brought Dildo Dragon on, and he talked all about Mystic and its balance and all that stuff, so it was a good episode. Laxon9003 says, I don't get all the hate Rezlar gets. Go Rez. Frosty, on the other hand, don't get why people want some of the classes wants buffs while he always plays the flavor of the month classes.
Yikes.
Like, play a bad class for once and try it out yourself and get a opinion afterward. And then I do mean no trials. Just go into Nodewar and Siege. Also try grinding with it. Get good understanding. Frosty comment, just reroll. Some people like their class and wants to get really good at it instead of reroll to the flavor of the month and feel powerful. All right, first of all, I don't think you should just reroll if your class is bad. I'm saying if you've been playing class for 2 years and you've been annoying your friends by crying about it for 2 years, then reroll. No one wants to hear it.
That's fair. Yeah. That's fair.
And second, I played Sork when it was not flavor of the month, okay, for a year. And then I did play Mystic when it's flavor of the month, but because that shit was dope as fuck. I don't really roll because something is flavor of the month. It just all the classes I play happen to be strong. But I played Ranger. I mained Ranger for a while. I mained DK for a little while. I mained Lawn, both Awakening and Succession for a while. Kuno. I'm sorry, but Kuno, like before the CC changes, people were not calling Kuno a flavor of the month class, and that's when I mained it. So I don't know. This is false. This is all false.
Also, you played Tamer.
Yeah, and I mained Tamer was like my first class that I got to 60, and I played it before and after the CC changes. Though I didn't love it post CC changes, but it's still, I don't know, I still did just fine. I was using it in Siege when I was in Vexus, and it was fine. So, yeah, I tried grinding with it and node warning with a bunch of classes, dude. I have 5 level 62s. All right. Give me a break.
Jeez.
Max Punch says they should have just removed Ninja and Kuno as a class and reroll all existing chars to Meiwa. Keck W.
I agree.
God. Seven Hun says there was a lot of talk about class matchup and balance here. I just want to throw in that I feel like since Succession came in, it puts my class, Awakened Striker, in a really bad spot. While I'm not that experienced at higher levels, I am soft cap. I've spent a lot of time in BA. I feel much slower than every other class now, and failing a grab is instantly punished. Ninja and Kuno and DK all pop in and out of existence around me until I run out of SA or stamina. Moose and Meiwa are incredibly hard to catch now without being blown up by two skills at the same AP as me. I suddenly enjoy fighting Sork and Archer because I feel at least I can predict what I'm going to need to do. Mages still feel okay to fight, but that was always a lot of running around. And the bugs that still exist on Striker are even more obvious and punishing now. I'm not going to re-roll or move to Succession, so I really just find myself in a spot where I'm not sure what to do besides just go grind and wait and see if the balance changes and gains bring me back up a bit. Just wanted to get that off my chest. Love the show, guys. Yeah, Striker's in kind of a weird spot. I mean, in 1v1, I'm not really with you. I mean, I could see Ninja and Sork being really hard, Kuno being kind of hard, but outside of that, I feel like...
Yeah, but everyone is struggling with those classes, so it's not like that's a Striker-specific problem.
Right. So... Now, large scale,
and outside of those classes, Striker's similar to Zerker in terms of its 1v1s, where outside of those like iframey classes, like you're doing really well. Your class is very strong and has a lot of tools that makes you very capable in 1v1s.
In large scale, I get what you're saying, but that's kind of if you're not a flex class or a ranged class or have PA, you're kind of fucked in large scale. So.
Or you don't have a Q buff up.
Or Q buff. Yeah, ranged, dude. Best range class in the game is Zerker.
Yeah. Dude, I killed an archer the other day who was annoying the shit out of me in BA. I just popped Q buff, blasted him. He died in like 2 hits, and then I just typed, "I'm the better range class," and walked away.
Good. I would just hang in there on the Striker. I do think it's going to get some changes down the road. I don't know how soon, but down the road. It's a popular class, so I don't think they'll forget it forever. It's not like Meiwa where only Nayashe plays it, so they can hold off on changes.
Yikes.
Yumenadai says Frosty.
Well, also, I wanted to bring this up earlier, but I forgot to. I think, would any of you disagree that Striker is probably the worst scaling class in the game? Which is interesting.
Disagree?
Yeah, would you disagree with that statement? Do you think there's a class that scales worse than Striker?
I don't think so. I think classes like Striker and Mystic are extremely strong at like lower, tier AP type thing, but
right.
The second, people start getting gear, it just can't really compete because like having either range or mobility or, iframes is what's going to kind of carry you. That's what brings you, to like the next level, and Striker just doesn't have any of that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think, Mystic scales worse, dude. Also, I don't think scaling is too vague. I think the problem with Striker is that the filler abilities, because everyone gets stuck, same with Wiz Witch and any class that has pets, like they get stuck on this like pet scaling is ruining the class, blah, blah, blah. None of that even really matters. You can look at it as black and white as everything outside of leg drop currently just doesn't do enough damage and needs to be brought up a little bit. The filler abilities on those classes need to be brought up a little bit. So when they do combo someone, it's a little bit more consistent and reliable.
So yeah, whenever I say scaling, I'm not speaking strictly numbers, although that is an aspect of it. I mean, like, as an average gear level like rises and as the class's gear level rises, how effective are they, basically? So like as average gear and as Striker gear is low, like Striker is one of the top performing classes, but it like slowly just declines until once everybody's at like 280 AP and 320 DP, Striker is really in a tough spot compared to a lot of other classes. Agreed. And Mystic just as well.
Yeah. No, definitely. 100%.
Whereas like it's the inverse of like DK and Ranger, like Rilok was talking earlier, where like low AP, it's pretty hard, not really doing too much, but once you get to those like insane levels, it becomes really oppressive.
Dude, I keep having this Sork I know keeps telling me that Sork scaling is bad too, and it drives me nuts.
Can I amend my answer from earlier? Y'all asked me, what community probably complains so much. I want to move it to Sork.
Just
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Dude, it was so funny. I presented the idea, and this has been talked about before. I heard Choice talking about it on Fake Uniforms podcast a while back, Choice and Hedon, and he was saying like one idea would be to make Nightcrow a super armor give it a 1 second cooldown, and when it's on cooldown, it's a super armor instead of iframe, right? Yeah. So that way it's like iframe, SA, iframe, basically similar to Lon, but the movement works the same as Sork. But here's the thing. The benefit of this would be Sorks could still play Sork style, but if you're in a group of 5 or 10 people and there's flame towers around, now you actually can get hit. And you can get debuffs, and over time, if you're like way overmatched, your HP is actually going to start lowering. And when I talk about this with Sorks, like there are definitely reasonable Sorks. Like I think Hedon wouldn't be that opposed to this idea. Alki, who's a really strong Sork that's geared in our guild, is not opposed to the idea. But when I talk to people that are not reasonable Sorks, they're like, well, okay, but then you have to make can you make Shadow Leap way shorter cooldown? It's like, no, you don't get something in return. You don't understand. When you're in the position of being way above everyone else, you don't get compensation for these nerfs, dude. That's not how it works. So yeah, I don't know. Just even little things like slow debuff, dude. They can like literally iframe through like a Mystic's dragon, and it just nothing, no effect, doesn't slow them down.
That's literally what I was about to say. Was like the win condition for Zerker v Sork, in my opinion, and I think pretty much every Zerker will agree, is like, do you get devastation debuff on them? Like if we're assuming that this is a good Sork, right? It's like if you manage to get the devastation debuff on them, then your odds just went up by like probably like 40%, honestly, that you're gonna win.
Right.
But if they just iframe all of devastation, it's like it's just impossible. Like it's so hard.
I have a question then, like pertaining to Sork, do you think which would you prefer? Like, changes that, Frosty mentioned where it's like, okay, we're switching up instead of having as access to as many iframes, you get maybe some super armors thrown in there, or would you prefer dropping a lot of their damage? Because I don't think anybody would have too much of an issue with Sork if they didn't hit so hard. Because as it stands right now, it's just iframe, poke. Oh, and that poke damage just happens to, drop your block, and then the next one's gonna, eat up half your HP or whatever the case may be. It's having both of those that kind of, for me at least, is it makes them a challenge.
I mean, I would be cool with either way. I think like the damage thing, one of the issues with the waste or Sork's damages is that because their damage is all loaded on the same skills they're using to try to get CCs with, just them fishing for CCs when they're not even trying to do damage is killing people, right? Like that's the thing that sucks is like they iframe Dream of Doom, takes 15 to 20% of your health. iframe Engulfing Shadow, another 15 to 20%. iframe Shadow Eruption, another 15-20%. iframe Shadow Ignition, that one actually hits you, you get floated, their attack hits, you dead. You die. And like, I think if they were to lower the damage on that, in this case, if they were to lower the damage on some of those abilities that they're fishing for CCs with, they'd have to redistribute the damage elsewhere for like...
To their combo.
Combo, yeah. And so that way their PvE isn't changed either, or isn't as hurt by it. Because yeah, like if they're fishing for CC and you're like getting hit by everything constantly and you're dying, like that's one thing, but like, man, sometimes I swear they're not even trying to kill you and you just die. They're actually just trying to get you to get CC'd.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Like, maybe with Succession, they made it so that our poke abilities or CC abilities actually started hitting hard, and like that felt really good. But
so Maywa nerfs.
I don't have iframes, so
yeah, Maywa nerf winded. Maywa's OP.
I'd be cool.
Well, the difference is I actually get killed.
Yeah. I know. I had that too sometimes. There's like, I was fighting this Musa the other day where like he would come in, he would only stub arrow, dude. It's so, I actually hate that playstyle, but he would stub arrow, stub arrow, stub arrow, and then I would just, I got to the point where I'm like, I'm just trying to kill him standing up, like chip away until he dies, and it actually was working. It was sad, since he's just gonna run from me forever. All right, Humanidai says Frosty. Frosty says, "quote We have too many nodes. PA reduces the amount of nodes. Frosty surprise Pikachu face." I'm glad someone else noticed the need of compression. At this point, I feel like DK main complaining about the sound quality of the podcast. I like Rezlar. I don't understand the hate. He can easily become meme material. Love the podcast. Keep up the good work.
He could easily become meme material.
Yeah, the compression we tried last week, I didn't like how it sounded, and it actually made me have to edit way more than I wanted to. So I'm trying something new this time. It was more of just like a basic limiter, so I think it'll be okay. As long as nothing goes wrong, we'll see. Hopefully no one's ears get blown out.
Oh God, something went wrong!
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, you definitely heard the relog and log out sound of Rezlar disconnecting because his ISP is bad, not Kakao or BDO or their servers. Tim says, people who take personal jabs are actually being negative. Let's keep in mind that this is a video game, plus someone needs to be able to refute Frosty's white knighting when it gets out of hand. LOL.
Yikes.
Yeah, basically. And like, to be clear, so like there was a lot of really nice and positive comments, and like thank you very much for all of the support and everything. But like, I kind of like, when I went back and re-listened to the podcast, I kind of made it sound more like it was like this like huge group of people. I want to be very clear. It was like not a lot of people who were like being very mean. It was a very small group of people, but the only reason we talked about it is because we didn't want to just start like deleting comments out of nowhere and then have these people like be able to use that as ammunition or anything. So we just wanted to be like transparent with what we were doing on the channel, basically.
Rezlar's lying. He called me one night crying and said he doesn't think he can continue on, that people are too mean.
That's why I got invited on, as a replacement.
Yeah, just a subtle replacement. Origami says, about Guardian, I am just used to practicing against them all. Regardless of cam turning, I am a grab class, so not much they can do, to be honest. I'd be more than happy to fight people around here to prove I'm not just empty bragging. I love PvP, although I'm not geared, to be honest. 285, 317 DP at the moment. Poor Rezlar, dude. When people say they're not geared and they have higher stats in every category than Rezlar.
Yeah, basically,
right?
Edited.
Sounds like the story of my life, too.
I didn't have a second line here. I didn't resist grabs all the time, block damage, and make dumbass assumptions. I think that was from the prior comment, but I don't remember. Yeah, we gotta do a community night again and bring people in PvP.
Well, we got to do a lot of things again, like a tournament, but we're waiting for all the successions.
Yeah, the tournament's waiting on succession. Characters. We'll do a community night and see. We'll get Rilok.
I might honestly do a succession tournament with just regular gear, and then if it's someone that comes in with absurd gear, and just ask them to drop a little bit.
I mean, they said themselves they're going to give us succession on trials after every succession's out. And now it is. So I imagine in the next couple of weeks, hopefully we'll see something. Because I think tournaments are kind of on hold.
We have a lot of
True. Also, the other thing too, this is my new thing. I'm dropping the Shadow Explosion getting SA. It's never going to happen. I'm moving on to something more important. They need to give us back precision crystals on trial gear, please.
Oh my God, yes, please, God.
It's literally impossible to combo people with the way trial gear is set up. Please give us precision crystals back. That shit is annoying as fuck. The Shepherd 112 says, you are loved by 99.9% of your audience, Rezlar. Don't take what the minority says faux heart.
Yeah, I don't think it's that high. I think it's maybe... I think it's like maybe like 30%.
Shepard, there are two things we're not going to accept. Just straight up insults and lies, okay? So if you're going to sit here and lie to Rezlar. He also says, Rezlar, you're getting destroyed because you're not playing Archer. That was your first mistake.
Well, I was playing Archer, actually, for quite a while, but yeah.
Why'd you swap off?
I just miss Zerker, man. As much as like I get fucked on Zerker because of my shite internet, I just like the class, man. It's just me. It's the class that I like. So it's not that I didn't like Archer. I did enjoy Archer, and Archer was very fun to play. It was very good. Obviously, class is fucking broken. And I enjoyed having like one of my biggest complaints on Zerker is like when I started playing Zerker, both at launch and then after I came back to Zerker after playing Warrior for a really long time, I didn't have anybody to like teach me anything. So everything that I learned was basically self-taught or just like watching other people like fight, like raw fights. So having General Moore's entire guide to just be like, yeah, this is how you play Archer. Like, it was like so nice, dude. I'm like, dude, is this what it's like to have like a mentor? Oh my god, this is so easy. Holy shit.
YoFam wasn't helping you?
Dude, Steve is really good, but I think I've said this before on the podcast. Steve is not a very good teacher. Like, he is a really good Zerker, but like you watch his videos where he tries to explain things and it's like, holy shit, I don't understand what he's trying to convey, or why is he going off on a tangent every other second? Like, his strong suit is playing Zerker. It is not teaching Zerker. And I mean that with all due respect. He is an amazing Zerker. One of the best, if not the best in NA, in my opinion. But holy shit, I cannot watch his videos where he tries to teach things.
And then you have my poor Mayo community that has to sit through an hour and a half long guide video.
Yeah.
Dude, he also
I can't get my points across in a very concise manner without going into excessive detail.
He had a tier list. Steve had a tier list, if I remember correctly, that he put Maywa 1v1 at F tier.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I don't care how much Maywa's complained. That shit is not F tier, dude.
I laughed at it. I'm like, no, that's not right. I got to be genuinely honest.
But
I
dude,
do not agree.
Like, even in that video that I think you linked, Nayashe, where Steve was talking about like the changes to Succession, the one that we were memeing about, you know, stop trying to make Succession work in PvP, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Like, you can see what I'm talking about in that video. He like goes over like add-ons, right? And then he like walks like 3 feet to the right, and then he just goes, oh, it's this guy. And he's just like, yo, what's up, man? It's like, it's that like so much. It's like, holy shit. He just like,
that's Steve. It's what makes
I know,
content
it's Steve.
fun.
I know. Like, I love his videos, and like I watch a lot of his videos, and they're really like fun and entertaining. But like, as a teacher, it's like, dude, I'm just trying to like learn as much as I can in as little time as I can. Like, you got like these tangents and like this ADHD, like, oh, squirrel, like, Jesus.
Yeah. By the way, reminder: Vel's in 1 hour because of daylight savings.
Yep.
Yeah,
my guild's been going crazy.
Clayton Alexander says full pen C9 is barely 680 evasion. Most top end player will never see 700 total from their gear. That's what I've been trying to say. Like, I don't know why everyone thinks like that you get like your armor's all full pen and then suddenly you're this 800 evasion god that's unkillable.
Nope.
It's a lot harder than that.
So. I never once said.
No, not you. But everyone does think that. Not no one.
Not you, but everyone.
I'm just saying. As the game progresses, I can see where it becomes more and more of an issue. Like, the more players I run into that have, you know, C9 plus armor, which yes, it takes fucking minute to get it. Sure.
I've decided that the solution to the evasion DR blah 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 debate is they need to just remove the evasion and accuracy offhands from the game entirely. They just need to be removed. They shouldn't exist.
Really?
Yeah, I really think so, because
I think that's fair.
One of the things that makes... Alright, so it's one thing if I run into Zethian, right? Because Zethian is 370 DP, super geared, high DRs, class is tanky kind of by default, and he has a lot of evasion. So I get that. But when I run into someone that's a little bit lower geared, like a Ninja at Mansham Arsha, that is using a evasion offhand, like, he's not really more geared than me, right? So I can understand that frustration of like, this dude's unkillable because he's using a green offhand. And then the counter to it is you gotta I mean, either you have way more gear than him, so you have the accuracy stuff, or you have the accuracy offhand. But putting on an accuracy offhand for one player is not really a viable thing to do. So, like, just remove them both, and it kind of solves that problem.
What if I'm gonna throw an idea at you, and I know this is like a very simple answer, and it probably wouldn't solve the problem entirely, but Cacao Probus likes to deal with simple answers, so I'll give him a solution. What if they just increase the accuracy on Beg's gloves?
No, I think that might make it a little strong.
No, I don't think
it would be too much of a disparity between Begs and Liebers. Like Begs and Liebers is like kind of like that nice trade-off. It's kind of like the right amount. You're getting decent amount of evasion extra, but you're losing an equivalent amount of accuracy overall. So it's kind of like a trade-off. But then again, that kind of goes off I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like those weapons were cool at a different era in the game, but now they're like these cheap, easy to get weapons.
They're so outdated now, but they become really superior with all the new and improved gear.
Yeah.
In certain situations.
Situations, right. And again, like I know no one believes me, but I do still think the direction they're going is addressing the issue everyone has. It's just they're not going to do it all at once. Like they're slowly
I actually agree.
I agree.
Yeah, they're like adding more accuracy shit here and there. They're nerfing like the classes with evasion damage percentages. So over time, it'll get to a place that's good. But I still think like, I don't know, the evasion offhand just doesn't have a place.
It's just scary waiting for them to go through each individual change. And you see this, and you're like, oh, that's not good. Right. Don't do that. Don't do that. But yeah, that I can see that there's some things that are seemingly leading towards direction.
The Spoon Elite says, I was thinking of commenting last week, but I listened at work and got distracted. I've listened to every episode up to now, and I have to say, since Rezlar Gate, the podcast just hasn't been the same. I don't even know what that is.
I don't know. I read that as well, and I was like, what is Rezlar Gate?
So he goes on to say, most episodes have felt like Frosty plus guest. Admittedly, not really a big fan of Rezlar ever since he pseudo shot me down in a comment in the early days, but I've always thoroughly enjoyed the podcast. You tend to be a little Chad about your opinion and generalize heavily. Your DK Light comment was the perfect example of where generalization within a generalization. There's never a most or some, it's all or nothing, and that is guaranteed to piss people off. TLDR, I hope this experience helped knock the chip off your shoulder, but I do hope you don't feel like you don't want to contribute because of how listeners feel about you. I'm sure I'm not the only one that appreciates your contribution to the podcast. Keep it up, both of you. P.S. Nayashe is pretty cool, too.
I would be very interested, if you listen to every episode, I'm assuming you're listening now, I need to know what Rezlar Gate is. I don't know what that is.
I think Rezlar Gate is the one where you try to talk about Avengers and make the podcast political.
What?
You remember that when Avengers came out and we had a little segment on Avengers randomly?
Oh yeah, because I wanted to put in-game in the title, and that's the only reason I wanted to do that. I was like, I want to put in-game in the title.
No, I actually have no idea what Rezlar Gate is. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but to the point of it seems like the podcast is more just Frosty and guests. That is on purpose, at least in my part, because I think Frosty does a way better job of asking good questions than I do for the most part. He puts a lot more thought into like what's a good question to ask, like what's a good like topic to have this guest like talk about. He's just better at it than I am, in my opinion, which is why, like, whenever we do, like, guests and stuff, I usually just let him, like, do his thing, because he's way better at that shit than I am. And I usually just chip in if I really have something, to bring up, like, a point, or if I want to just crack a joke occasionally. But, yeah, like, that's on purpose. That's not because, like, I'm dejected or anything. That's because, like, I just think he's better with guests than I am, personally. So
there's also an element of Rezlar's trying to get into silver in League of Legends, and he's focused on that during the podcast. He's trying to get out of iron.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, yeah, Nayashe's all right. You know, he always tries to turn
okay.
no matter what class guest we bring on, it turns into a Maywa discussion. But it's, you know.
You know, I was thinking about that today. I'm like, I'm not gonna bring up Maywa. And then Rilok asked me some Maywa related question. I'm like, oh fuck, here we go. The floodgates open.
Yeah.
It's that meme. It's that oh shit, here we go again meme.
Here we go again. I actually am trying not to like interject with every little bullshit comment I have to say about Maywa related to X, but
it's all right.
Sometimes it just pops up. I don't mean to. If it's obnoxious, I'm sure the whining sounds amazing to Frosty. He just lives for it at this point. But
luckily for me, I re-roll so much that I'm not that invested in any class, so I'm not that upset. But I think the first like 6 or 7 months of the podcast, there was every time we had a topic, there was a little Rezlar throwing something about Zerker. He weaned himself off after becoming Archer and God-tiering for a little while.
Well, I mean, again, like, there's a lot of things that changed since we started this podcast. And, like, another thing is, like, I'm in the position where I have made it clear that, like, everyone's issue with Zerker is, like, Q buff. And, like, yes, it should be nerfed. So, if people understand that I have that position, then they can go forward with everything I say with the idea of, like, well, also, this would be in tandem with a Q buff nerf, so it's, like, more understandable, I think. Like, I've always said, like, why does Ancient Wave have a 30-second cooldown? That's fucking insanity to me that this ability has a 30-second cooldown. And then normally people would be like, well, you have Q buff, so what the fuck? And it's like, I understand, but Q buff needs to be nerfed, and Ancient Wave does not need a 30-fucking-second cooldown.
My response to that is always just to upset you. I say, yeah, but Ancient Wave's protected CC. And then I try to move on. I try to move on really quickly. It's a frontal guard float, dude. Easy.
Definitely is a frontal guard, just like Grim Reaper's Judgment. It's the exact same. Except Grim Reaper's Judgment is like a 5-second cooldown and also has a BSR version that makes it insta-kill people. But, you know, we don't talk about those things, you know?
Yeah, all right. Because there are definitely Zerkers at home that think that I actually believe Ancient Wave's frontal guard CC. I know it doesn't have frontal guard when you insta-cast, all right? People leave me alone. All right, Lost Soul says...
It's only on charge for those of you who aren't aware of the meme here. It's only on charge.
We have video evidence at the beginning of every podcast that Ancient Wave is busted, all right?
Yeah, dude, just like... What was that ability? Crouching Wolf?
Yeah, but that one got nerfed. I don't know. Where's the Ancient Wave nerf, dude? Lost Soul says, hey, boys, I might be coming back to BDO, but what the fuck are they doing to my baby Ninja? All this talk about 50% less ACU on skill. Don't Ninja already need pen RCE to be good? LOL. What?
Oh, what?
Lost Souls hasn't played since 2017, apparently. Lost Souls says, in my 2 cents on the evasion, I just went full evasion, and to do it, you need the last AP for more DP/evasion. With DR, you are not just Caffressing your armor for more DP and keeping more AP. Yeah, to some extent that's true, but like... yeah, I don't know. This feels like a little bit dated, Lost Souls, and yeah, they're doing a lot of stuff to your Ninja because this shit's crazy, and no, you do not need pen RCs to be good on Ninja.
Tired of running into Sasuke and Naruto every time I jump into an RBF.
Yeah, dude, have you seen Dildo's video, the cockroaches video? Shit's so funny. He has a video called like Ninjas or Cockroaches. He's like in RBF and there's no one on the map, and he runs out to the middle and like 4 ninjas come out of concealment. It's like such a good analogy,
so
dude.
That's so true.
The
Awesome.
most important takeaway of that comment is Lost Souls is coming back to the game, which means we're gonna have our troll ninja in the comments every episode again.
Yeah. Or if he comes into BA, he's just gonna be in concealment, watching your 1v1 and throwing CCs randomly to piss you off.
Wasn't he the one that always did the damn, what's that ability? What's the ninja grapple called? The pre-awaken one.
Suicide Fall, where you're spinning forever. He would do that glitch, yes.
Yeah.
Constantly on you. And you'd be in the middle of, be in the middle of one of our like Friday Night Fights or whatever, and he would just be in there in fucking the arena with his horse charging people, and you're like, dude, can you stop?
Yeah.
Or then when he goes in, he's wearing some fucking bullshit like Kadri rings and Sissel neck and evasion offhand, but he has like 110 AP and like it's his time to fight, and like him and his opponent can't kill each other. And like, dude, can you please just put normal gear? God damn it. Austin Lasser says, I think you should be able to do any CC. I don't think you should be able to do any CC out of concealment. Like, if you're in concealment, you have to draw your weapon with tab or C to come out of concealment only. I don't mind the first part of what you're saying, at least the sentiment of it. The second part is horrible, though.
Yeah, that second part is rough, brother.
Drawing your weapon should never even be a thing in this game. I feel like there should be no weapon put away stance. That shit's just stupid.
I think it's a great BM tactic.
It's a great BM tactic, dude.
Kamikaze says, hi guys, great podcast as always. Rezlar, don't mind the hate from people. I love your thoughts, man. Who would listen to a podcast where all participants are in agreement all the time? No one. Because you guys, now all three of you, give your own perspective, which often differs, and that's just the way it should be. Also, Frosty, your stealth suggestion changes I don't really support. After, for the record,
after it just got brought up.
Well, I was going to say, what was my suggestion? Just,
I don't remember either.
You're revealed just to a single player.
You said no. You were
the area.
Yeah, proximity.
Yeah, proximity. So yeah, in my head it was like if you're within basically like a shadow stomp range, then people can see you, but you're not like revealed or pulled out of concealment. It's just the people near you can see you. That was kind of what I was thinking. But anyway, he says
it's like Evelyn in League of Legends. If anyone plays that game.
I don't think no one's ever played that game before. No one plays that game.
Dude, game's dead.
After the coming suck changes, I need to get used to those, but rather than reworking stealth to a complete new function, nerfing the duration a little bit so we cannot stay in stealth 24/7. If we choose so, would be more balanced change in my eyes. Let's say the duration of stealth would be reduced by 5 or 6 seconds. That would make camping choke points in Node War a lot harder. I agree with that. I wouldn't be opposed to that either, where if like that would also make stealth more of a, you can use it as an engagement, but then you're not going to have it as the escape, or vice versa. You can use it as an escape and not use it as engagement if the cooldown was, or if the duration was shorter. He says, also, I do agree on the changes to Suck Ninja, albeit the movement changes I don't agree with. 1/3 the distance will make it ghost step skill rather than mobility. Keeping the range change on ankle cutter and crescent slash mobility, however, I do agree with. Love hearing all your opinions, disagreements. Keep up the good work. Also want to point out for Nayashe about it's a lot harder for you to kill Ninja than Ninja to kill you comment. That truly depends on when, where, equalized skill experience against the class. I personally always hunt the opponent's Ninjas in Node War RBF simply because I have very good understanding how Ninjas work move. It's rare for me to struggle with shutting down the other team's Ninjas from hunting our backline. Killing ninjas is not really hard unless they're evasion heavy or outgear you. Catching ninja is not that hard either, as long as you know what you're looking for. Sorry for the wall text. Love you guys.
I mean, yeah, but that's also from the context of someone that's not focused on you. You're peeling. Peeling's always going to be easier. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, fighting any class that isn't paying attention to you is going to be easier. But I mean, it is, like I said before earlier in the podcast and probably before on other podcasts, is generally speaking, I don't look at one class as like this class is always a loss for us unless it's followed up with the person behind it, the player behind it. Like I said earlier, Hands is an example of like that's probably going to be a mostly loss kind of matchup for me. But not necessarily another warrior player where I could have a win rate of 70% or more, like it really ultimately depends on the player. But yeah, it's very rarely where I sit there and say, oh, this class is 100% a loss. Suck Ninja, though, typically is very difficult when they're focused on you.
Rilok, how do you feel about the Succession Ninja changes?
I mean, I'm okay. I think they're justified, but at the same time, I don't think many ninjas, like I think I talked with Yellow a little bit about it, and he's not really sweating it because it's like if they lose out on that damage, then they always have Awakening to fall back on. So it's kind of like whatever. And to be honest, I feel like Awakening ninjas are a little bit more of an issue to deal with because at least like Succession Ninja, yes, you have the damage, but I at least have a chance of hitting you. Like I can do something because you're not going to be as protected. Whereas in Awakening, I just can't tag you.
Right.
That's more of a problem for me.
Yeah, I'm excited for that change to come because I just want to see how it feels. Hopefully they give us trial so I can try it out.
I want to see them do another population check after that change is put in.
Bunny says just my IMO as a DK player. I think DK is at a pretty good spot with Suck, not OP in anything, but would say it's good at everything if you put the time in. Again, just my opinion. Some would say different things. Thank you for the podcast. Fun to listen to while studying, grinding, brain dead spots, etc. Thank you. Empyrean Dreamers replied to that and said, also DK here. I think I'm just gonna read the top part of this. It's kind of long, but he said, I think right now DK Succession is the best example of where all Successions should be. It adds a reasonable amount of stuff and seems pretty balanced overall. I only have 3 real complaints about the state of DK, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But firstly, I think she should have higher base defense. Secondly, there's still a lot of duds in Awakening, meaning like some of the skills are useless. And lastly is personal quality of life, but I think it'd be nice if the iframe cancels from Succession were class-wide. Yeah, I don't agree with or I don't disagree with all that stuff. The base defense specifically, but I still don't know. I don't know about that damage. They haven't touched it yet, but that damage still concerns me a little bit.
Also, really quickly, while we're on the topic of how Successions should be, let me know if you disagree with this, because I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not. And Rilok, you can especially let me know. I actually think Ranger Succession is exactly how Successions should be. Where, if you consider there's 3 aspects to the game, PvE, 1v1, large scale, they're relatively similar in one aspect, and then one is good in one aspect, maybe a little bit worse in the other, and then the other kit is the flip of that. So, like you were saying that in large scale, Succession is way better than Awakening, but in Awakening, it's way easier to 1v1 than Succession, and they're both relatively similar in terms of their ability to PvE. I honestly think that's how Succession should be, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean I agree, and even when it comes down to a gear level thing too, like regardless of if you're in Siege or T1, Node War type thing, Succession's better. It's just better for like that group play. Whereas if you're 1v1ing, I'm sorry, you gotta be an Awakening. Like you just don't stand a snowball's chance in hell in Succession, where you have a little bit of kind of like, all right, it's more of a preference. It's gonna be, or your gear is that middle ground where it's like, okay, where's my AP at, or what do like small scale type of PvP or PvE, like it's PvE at this point is purely preference. Like, do I want Awakening or do I want Succession? Like, neither's the wrong answer. I feel like that is kind of balanced. The problem is you might have one class that has that, and then you have another class where it's like Sork or something, Succession, where it's like, okay, I either am God tier and untouchable, or I'm God tier because I can just wipe people out and still relatively untouchable. I mean, I have a little bit more of a chance where people can hit me, but it ain't by much. I don't know. I prefer how it's done with Ranger. I think DK's Rangers, I don't know, I think that's pretty solid in how they did Succession.
I disagree a little bit. I think like if that was going to be their direction, where it's like one is good for one aspect of the game, the other is good for the other, then they have to be like transparent and upfront that is their goal, and B, make it really, really easy and free for us to swap back and forth instantly for the different styles.
Well, they did say they did say that they wanted to get to a point to where Succession and Awakening, there's not one spec that's better than the
Right.
other.
That's the
But
thing.
their implementation in terms of, like you mentioned, swapping between the two, that's terrible. So
It's
I
bad,
agree
yeah.
with it.
So I just think a better example is like Lon or Musa, where both of them are basically relatively the same strength in every aspect. Now Lon's like matchups change. I think Lon is really good against Striker, Mystic, and Zerker on Awakening, whereas Lon Succession is a lot better against Ninja Kuno and Sork, and worse against those first three. But I like that no matter which one I play, they both are relatively good. Same thing with like Musa. So I don't know, that I think it should just be more a playstyle preference versus like, oh, I have to play this one because that's what's good at large scale. That's just me.
Well, but it is like, if it was set up in the way that I'm talking about, you would still have, to a degree, playstyle preference, because if somebody like Nayashe, who almost never fucking node wars and sieges, they might be like, well, I want to take the one that's more 1v1. But then if it's somebody who, like Rilok, who really enjoys siege and that's his shit, maybe he wants to take the other one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even like too opposed to that idea either, but then I still think it would have to be, you'd have to be allowed to swap, because then people like me that love to 1v1 and defend my grind spot or play exclusively on Arsha's server, then when I go to large scale because I chose the 1v1 spec, I suck.
Right.
I don't know, because I still love large scale.
Right, yeah, and I don't disagree with that concept, but I'm just pushing back about the idea that there's no like playstyle choice. Like, it would still be just on a larger scale, basically. I don't know. And like, to make clear, it's not like I disagree with the idea of make them like basically the same in terms of their strength. I'm just saying how I originally thought it was going to be and how I think I would prefer it to be personally is like, if you're weak at this, then we're going to make your Succession better at this, and then maybe just take away your power at this other thing a little bit. But I understand that that's like not what they're going for.
Yeah, Jens Johansson says, this is comment of the week, by the way. This is my favorite comment. Jens Johansson says,
Is this the one I commented on?
Nayashe is one of the best Meiwas out there, and he has 30% win rate against mid-level warriors, which is absolutely fact and true. He sucks. He says, being 299 AP and 331 DP Musa, I feel that Musa is dog shit in large scale at the moment. Awakening. If Musa engaged at the wrong time, you're blown up in dash. Can't disengage because of stamina problems. All right, so let's address the first. Let's address the first part. So Nayashe, as one of the best Meiwas out there against your average mid-level warrior, do you go 3-7 in first to tens?
Most definitely not. Most definitely not. Not even remotely true. Mid-level warriors I typically handle no problem. And I have a lot of warriors I can, if absolutely necessary, I have a lot of warriors that could back that claim up.
Dude, I loved it. When I read that, I like that mid-level too. It's like so dry. Like, dude, even your basic nincompoop warrior, Nayashe struggles, dude. He just gets clapped.
Most warriors, especially mid-level warriors, I'm trolling really hard. I try different combos just for the sake of entertainment value because it's too easy to catch.
His next comment is, being 299 AP, 331 DP Musa, I feel that Musa's dog shit large scale awakening. That whole thing, I just could not disagree more. I feel like Musa is really good in large scale. Its position as
Musa's awakening is pretty solid overall in comparison to some others.
Yeah, its position as a solid flex class is so like just straight up legitimate. Like if you recommend a Musa to someone, they can find success in basically every aspect of the game if they're a good player. Like Meiwa or Musa's like the most well-rounded class, like balance-wise, I feel like, of any of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially 299 AP, you can't kill anybody in large scale. Come on.
You're a mobile.
Here's the other thing. Like, the only thing I could argue on his point in a kind of agreement is that the new Siege HP buffs have been cancer for all flex classes.
Yeah, I haven't got to
in that respect, yes. But overall, for like a normal Siege prior to that stupid change and the Node Wars themselves, Moose is pretty solid, and I think most Mooses would agree. Even with all the successions and everything, Moose Awakening is considered pretty solid. Now, I'm not going to sit there and say it's top tier, but solid for sure. The only other thing... Wait, what was the... I can't remember the rest of it.
He said if Moose engaged at the
I'm
wrong
still
time,
derping about the 3 out of 10.
Yeah, well... That's just how you do against average. Like, you could just take mid-level warrior out of that sentence, Jens Johansson, and just put mid-level player. He has a 30% win rate against mid-level players.
Dude, nah, she's just over there, like shaking, like.
Did you read my comment?
Yeah,
in response?
You said. That being said, we got to talk about that versus warrior win rate. Hands is a god, but beyond him, I'll challenge any warrior and disprove that win rate. Danielle Boschetti says, I bet that Nayashe sleeps naked. Is that true?
Actually, yes.
That's unfortunate. Matthios War says, Frosty is the best, my kind of humor. How does your lawn hold up in Node War and Siege, or haven't you tried it? Do you think it's better played in ball or flank like Musa and Meiwa? Also, in regards to Meiwa talk, I rolled from Succession Meiwa. I think the thing with Meiwa, like Ranger Awakening, is they are just average in 1v1 with Succession hitting insane trash loots. I wouldn't even rate them that good in PvE, and they suck in Siege. If you get stuck into 2 years of zero positive attention, folks, get salty. If at least you are above average in one of the areas, 1v1, PvE, Node War, and Siege, and suck in another, it's easier to manage. Also, I think the barrier of entry is just higher. With other classes, you can play around your grab, and the other dude has to iframe it. With Meiwa, you have to know how all abilities look and what the SA is, what the frontal guard is, what the grabs are, etc. You still want to learn that on all class eventually, but you can at least start out with playing around your own game. I already would be happy for Meiwa if we could get an iframe that is not on chase, so when you go in for that CC or too late or desync or whatever, you can at least try and iframe that grab that is coming. On a different note, I consider Siege to be endgame, and I think no one should be useless in the endgame of a game, but that's nothing class related, that's just the nature of the game. Yeah, I agree with that last point. And for the lawn question, I think it's really, really good in Node War and small scale, and I think it's really good in 1v1. I have not tried it in Siege yet, so I'm not too sure. With the HP thing, it might be kind of tough, but yeah, in Node Wars, it's super fun. Like, my first week on it was rough, but after they did the 2 balance patches and then fixed my skill add-ons, it's pretty strong. I like it in Node War. Yeah, and the Meiwa stuff, that's a lot of what Nayashe was saying.
Yeah, just one additional iframe would actually go a long ways for that class. At least improve our 1v1 and some of our anti-damage mechanics, like damage avoidance.
I'm not a fan of this. Everyone that plays a non-grab class keeps saying that when you are a class with a grab that you don't have to learn other classes. It's starting to trigger me a little bit, but I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to move on. The Awkward Ninja says, TLDR, DKs are whinier than Meiwas for no good reason, IMO. I feel like Frosty getting annoyed with whiny Meiwas is probably not the class to get pissy at. Sure, they're more whiny than a lot of classes, but I feel like DK Succession, Valk, and Ranger Succession are much better examples of classes that are pretty decent but complain a ton. Also, I think that a lot of DKs, Musa, Meiwa, overhype having a grab. Yes, they definitely do. Like I was just saying, thank you for backing me up. Look, this comment was so well placed. Typically idolizing all grabs as the equivalent of a warrior grab, which comes out super fast as SA and can easily have SA engaged leading up to it. Slapping grab on everything isn't the answer. Buffing them in more intelligent class-specific ways would probably be less homogenizing. Agreed. My thing too with grabs is like just make grab cooldowns
I'm in
longer.
agreement with that. I don't want to grab on my class. I think grabs are just garbage. I think it takes no skill to press a button and just avoid dealing with their protections. And yes, I know it's not as simple as that.
Yeah, I just think the cooldowns like that's my thing. I said it a bunch of times. The cooldowns on grabs should be longer on everything except for maybe Zerker. Everything else, literally, you could double the cooldown, and I think the state of the game overall would be better on grabs. If you fail a grab,
if you double the cooldown on all the grabs, they would be Zerker's grabs cooldown.
Right.
Well, here's the problem with that. Yeah, it would probably be better, at least from, maybe one point of view, but I think all that would do is effectively slow the game down for a lot of players because they will just sit there and wait for their cooldowns. I mean, look at that. They already do that now, kind of like Succession Kuno. You can't really do much unless you have your cooldowns, right? That would be the argument that most Succession Kunos would say. So what do? Is they just S-block until they got their cooldowns. Would that not also be the same kind of effect if you just blatantly just flat out increase the cooldowns of all grabs?
I mean,
besides,
I could deal with someone S-blocking a lot more than I can deal with someone constantly grabbing me.
I'm just saying it would slow down the state of the combat. That's all.
I'm fine with
I'm not saying I can't deal with someone S-blocking. I can do that, but
also, like, if you're gonna increase like grab cooldown, I feel like you have to make like their other ways of getting catches a little bit better, honestly.
Yeah, probably lower a couple cooldowns here and there to compensate for sure.
Yeah, lower a cooldown or two.
But then those are more skilled catches.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is like I feel like if you're reducing their ability to get like CCs with grabs, you have to increase their ability to get CCs with other abilities. So maybe reduce some cooldowns, maybe make some skills faster. I don't know how you do it, but I feel like you need to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if they increased the cooldown on Zerker grabs and didn't do anything else, I would be very upset.
I get that, but you have to that's why I said take Zerker out. Guardian grab is 6-second cooldown.
Right.
Yeah, it's insane.
6-second cooldown. Like literally their cooldown is up by the time they start their first skill or they end their first skill after the grab.
I understand that.
Like that's what I'm saying.
Also the Mystic Striker grab
7 seconds.
What did you say those were?
7 seconds, and then the Awaken one is like 9, I think, on Striker.
Like they get you in a knockdown combo because the grab is a knockdown type CC, and then they get you in another knockdown, and if you're still alive, guess what? Their fucking grab is up again.
And even on both of the I mean, think of some of these classes too. Like Warrior, I could see like you'd probably have to lower the cooldown. Like I don't even think. All right, Ninja Kuno, I don't think you'd have to lower the cooldown on any of their CCs. They can get CCs without
probably
their grab.
Not.
On Striker,
I'm that's why like as much as I hate on Ninja, at least they catch you with other shit.
Right. Striker Mystic, they both grab you. I mean, they both have Mass Destruction and Rage Hammer. And like they have a lot of other ways. Mass Destruction, super low cooldown. And Striker has 2 grabs. They do have a fallback grab too. So they can manage the cooldown for a little bit. I think like some of the slower classes, like I could see it. Like Warrior, and maybe even Guardian.
This is why you'd have to do it on a class-by-class basis. You basically need to ask yourself, how often do you get CC'd by these classes that are not grabs? So, like Ninja, how often do you get CC'd that's not a grab? Quite often, right? They have quite a few catches that aren't just being grappled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Guardian, on the other hand, how often do you get CC'd by Guardian that's not them just grabbing you?
Dude,
I don't think I've been CC'd yet by a Guardian.
I was fighting a Guardian the other day that was... Dude, they basically have Mass Destruction, but I think it's a shorter cooldown. It's like 4 seconds. It works the exact same.
Their little side swipe.
Yeah, little side swipe kick thing, dude. That they have a lot of CCs. I don't know, like, and even them, like,
but those are like so slow and telegraph. Like, how are you not just dodging or blocking that?
Well, when you don't have range or other grabs to deal with it, it's very hard. And my point is like I wouldn't be opposed to like adding it, but a lot of these classes don't even need other skills changed.
I agree with that.
That's all
like,
I'm saying.
I'm just speaking for the classes that don't have a ton of catch potential outside of their grapple, right? Like they have some, it's there, it's possible, but if their main tool for getting CCs is grapple, and then you just like suddenly double the cooldown of that, there has to be something that you do. And you do that on a class-by-class basis, but for some of the classes, something has to happen.
In this perfect world, too, Sork would already have been nerfed in some capacity. But think about this, though. Like, one of the things... Like, in a vacuum, if Guardian's grab is doubled, then it's like, well, fuck, when I'm against Ninja and Kuno, it's going to be harder. It's like, well, yeah, except that their grab's also doubled, right? And that's kind of the weakness of the Guardian or the Warriors, like getting grab. I don't know. I just think the grab cooldowns are insanely short. They just are insanely short. Something should happen with that, in my opinion.
I don't think there should be a grab shorter than probably like 8 or 9 seconds. Like, that's the shortest a grab cooldown should be, honestly.
I would say if your grab has if it has a shorter cooldown, then it shouldn't have protection. But if it has, like the super armor attached to it, kind of like what they're doing with Succession Warrior, like they're increasing the cooldown of it, but it's still maintaining its super armor. I feel like that balances out a bit. Because like as a ranger, ours is relatively short, but it's unprotected, and it's got kind of a bullshit animation where you still do a backflip and people de-sneak out of it and all that kind of stuff. You're screwed. Like, you're actually screwed if it, gets resisted or anything. I
don't think I've ever complained about a ranger grab per se. But yeah, no, that your animation is pretty easy to punish.
Yeah, and Rilok brings up a good point that cooldowns are just a piece of the puzzle, right? You have things like protection, you have things like animation, you have things like what happens after, like, if you miss or if they resist. Like, one of my biggest annoyances with the striker grab is that they literally get a retreat if they resist or if they miss their grab. Like, just base. They just get a retreat. They just fall back, and it's protected from my understanding.
No, it's not protected. On the Mystic
no, are you sure?
That when they move backwards, it's not protected. The moment the grab fails and they do that little scoop back, they don't have protection.
Okay, yeah. I thought it was protected. But either way,
the scoop back is very nice.
It is very nice, and meanwhile, like, again, apples to oranges, but still the same nonetheless. Corpse Storm, when you miss it, you get locked into a 2-second animation where you're just standing still like a dumbass.
Right.
Like, what the fuck?
The other thing too, though. I mean, fighting against Mystic Striker, when they do that scoop back, at least, like, I know very clearly they just missed their grab and maybe have a second to actually do something. Like, that is, like, the biggest indicator. Sometimes some classes, it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, which is another thing. Like, Ranger. Like, if you miss your grapple as a Ranger, it's such a small animation. It's, like, really hard to see, in my opinion.
Tamer, too.
Yeah, Tamer as well. Like, they're really, really small animations. It's really hard to see. Like, I think Zerker is, like, another, like, some of their grabs are hard to, like, tell, like, if they actually used it or not. Like, Corpse Storm is pretty easy to tell because it's such a big animation, but, like, Smackdown, because it's very quick, and Rock Smash can be kind of hard because it's pretty quick. So, like, that's another thing as well, is, like, the indicator of, like, when a grab is being used if it's been missed, basically. So, just a lot of pieces to the puzzle, basically.
Okay. Talented Sniping says, whoever the fuck said 260 DP Guardian on the ground takes no damage from 280p something class is bullshit. Yeah, that was weird last week. The Awkward Ninja TLDR, evasion is easier and has more options for subbing it in for AP, where DR is less flexible and has less returns per point, so evasion is easier to build from an abundancy point of view. At about 50 minutes in talking evasion, you literally can't get tanky with DR. There is not enough DR accessories. It is easy to get evasion because you can be hyper tanky with 269 AP, where you can't give up enough AP to get tanky with DR. For example, Ninja can throw a Tad on and go from pretty squishy to noticeably tanky. Zerker, who is premier DR class, can't throw Theos DR offhand and become tankier while still killing things. Yeah, I don't disagree. And again, remove Tad from the game will help that a little bit, in my opinion.
Also, I really don't think Berserker is the premier DR class. I would argue that's either Warrior or Valk, but nonetheless.
Ignore the Name says, oh yeah, the merge with PS4 and Xbox is a great thing for sure. I just like to bitch. But Xbox said they were going to build a Trump wall of players on every cross server at Kama, so we can't get past. Cannot wait if it happens for mass PvP fest. It's going to be amazing. That is funny. How would you even be able to tell what players from what server? This person said, they also said, were the 22% damage nerfs to succession skills on Ninja or both pre-awakening as well? Curious because I haven't played Suck Ninja. No, it's just succession versions. The Musassin says, in regards to the 100% CC comment you made, Mooses can't have a grab fine. What are you willing to let us have then? Question mark, question mark. LOL, as long as there are classes with protected grabs, SA, FG, etc., I think Musa should have something that sets it apart and make people want to play it. Same with other classes. Heck, we aren't even the fastest class anymore. Still main Musa for life, regardless, though. You have Chase, dude. What else
Yeah,
do
you have probably like the most, if not the most, one of the most mobile classes in the game. You have some of the fastest CCs in the game. You have like I don't know, just this idea that like Mooses and Maywas have absolutely nothing going for them. It's just ridiculous. And that adding a grab would suddenly fix all of their problems. I don't know.
I don't think grab would fix our problem at all. It would
I
be
know
a little
you don't,
unbalanced.
but a lot of people do.
A lot
like,
of Mooses
you have
ask
to
for grab.
admit, a lot, specifically Mooses, I've noted, unless Maywas. I have ran into the occasional Maywa that says like, yeah, why don't we have a grab? But it's more so Mooses, in all honesty, that are like, we should 100% have a grab. And it's like, I just don't see the reasoning behind it. I just don't get it, dude.
Also, maybe don't play Musa try another class. Because if you've been on the same class forever, like some of that class's abilities aren't going to feel that special because you've just been on it for so long.
You know what actually also bothers me a lot about Musa? They're one of the most protected classes in the game, I think. It's just the fact that it's a lot of super armors instead of iframes, so it doesn't feel like it. But they actually are.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And like, it just annoys the shit out of me. I don't know.
Talented Sniping says, I'm not an experienced player, but in my opinion, classes without a grab are 10x easier to 1v1. Blood Diamonds replied Sork with a question mark. Tolan said Sniping also said, totally understand where you guys are coming from, but that's the internet, man. People will always be pieces of shit because they like the sound of their voice, and putting someone down makes them feel good. Lamau. Just gotta keep that skin thick as fuck. Keep it up, boys. Sam says, I wish they would show the gear difference some way in this game so people stop bitching about their class getting one-tapped or not being able to kill someone. I think this would also help balancing the game by making players more informed. Also, 50% nerf to blooming is not going to do anything as mentioned in the podcast. Should have been like 20 to 30% instead, in my opinion. It's weird that they decide to change every ability with 100% to 50%. They really only needed to touch blooming, which is what everyone was bitching about. Fucking communists. What?
Communist.
What?
No, so the change in the accuracy was just so that people like they wouldn't have these abilities that just negated people building like meme-vasion, basically, was the idea.
Well, he's saying that he doesn't understand why it's only a 50% nerf. That's what he's saying. He's saying going from 100 to 50 makes no difference. It should have been brought down to like 20 or 30%.
But it does. But it does for meme-vasion builds. It doesn't for your average player, but it does for meme-vasion builds.
Yeah.
For meme-vasion builds, that ability, that skills damage just got cut in half. Like,
right. I want to talk about the first thing he said, that he wishes they would show the gear difference in some way.
Dude, that's genius. I love it.
This was an idea that PA had. Do you remember they announced that they were going to do this, and they said it was going to be on Global Labs in like 2 weeks or whatever. This is like probably a year ago when Global Labs is pretty new. And then they reverted the idea and never did it. This is when Renown Score like changed or was moved, or I can't remember if it was when it was added or removed. It might have been that long ago, but what they were going to do is you were going to have an emblem on your head that represented like your general gear score, not like a precise number, but you're within a range. So that way people know if you're geared or not, but don't know exactly what items you have. So that way you still have some like modicum of privacy. And I wish still to this day that they would do that, because I do think that would make people. There are some times where people die to a ninja and they think like, dude, ninja just killed me in one skill, and it's like, yeah, you're 510 gear score and they're 650. Like, that shit's gonna happen. Not that Ninja doesn't need nerfs, but I agree. I think that information would help people a little bit deal with some of their losses. in a way.
I think you should just fucking show their gear, honestly. Like when you get killed in like a shooter like Call of Duty or something, and it shows you their loadout, like their gun and their shit that they use to kill you. Yeah, they should straight up just show you their gear, so you can be like, oh, that's why I died. This dude's got like fucking Pin Often and Pin Dandy C9 or some shit.
Right.
That would open up the floodgates, I think, for a lot of like, I don't know, like
that would be just more excuses.
Well, no, so like in my mind, if something like that happened, like, all right, this guy, I see the gear he's got. All right, I'm just gonna have a bunch of horizontal gains. So next time I fight him, let's say he's got, a ton of AP, but no accuracy whatsoever. Let me slap on an accuracy offhand or an evasion offhand, and then go at it again. Because I saw what he has, like.
Right, but we've already established that, like, those should probably go. Right? Weren't we in consensus about this? That accuracy and evasion offhands need to go?
I think it needs to be more general, honestly, because the other problem you get if you see everyone's gear all the time is that you're just going to have people that try to insult you because of your gear. Like, a lot.
That already happens.
In both ways, too. It'll be like, dude, LOL, look at your fucking gear and you can't kill shit. I mean, you saw that one fucking DK that said that I was 90 gear score above him. He said that I was 670 gear score, even though I wasn't even close. And I'm like, oh god. So if there was some like general like color thing, I think that would be cool. I don't know.
I think maybe like why not just do it? I don't know. Just do it. You can literally use the same like sort of system as we have for mobs. Where like if you're fighting a mob that's like way higher level than you, like their name is like purple or whatever, just do that, but for players and like total gear score.
Yeah, that would be dope.
I would prefer that. Yeah.
Mr. X says Rangers gets no love at all. It's not OP at all with how current classes are. So I find it funny how it keeps getting quote unquote balanced. I play Ranger and Valkyrie. Both classes are not the top tier and require more knowledge to play well with than many other classes. Like Mystic or Musa, dude, this is Mystic. Come on. Yet they are constantly balanced out. It's mind-boggling, really. I will still play Ranger and Valkyrie. They are fun for me, more rewarding than other classes personally. So in conclusion, I don't think anyone should complain. Easier to play, require more knowledge than Mystic.
Like I said throughout this entire podcast, you got to look at how classes get balanced in KR. Like KR Valks are really popular, so you have a bunch of classes with 100% accuracy modifiers with a ton of gear running around smacking people. You have Rangers 300, 310, 315 AP smacking people before they're even, barely in render range kind of thing. Like that's where the balance is. So if you're under this, this bar that they're, I guess kind of going off of, yeah, it's gonna feel like, why am I getting nerfed? It sucks, but that's why.
Vel in 3 minutes, by the way. All right, let's see. I'm gonna try to get through this. Queso81 says, dude, I've been Ranger main since launch. I don't give up on what I enjoy regardless of how nerfed we are. I complain endlessly about Musamewa being OP, and I find it retarded how much they salt about. They think their class is so nerfed when it's so OP. I used to do a lot with Musa Friend with Tri-Boss Gear, being able to one-hit me with Bloom when I was full Tep Boss. I find that retarded. Hence, all Musa are retarded. Who think the class is so sucky? I was 255
Yikes.
AP versus 210 AP, taking one full combo to kill versus one hit to kill me. Lame. Oh, I forgot to mention, every single dash has SA, and then the first is iframe. No protection. What? And then he goes back and forth with someone. I'm not going to read that part. Garushin says, I actually don't like the smokescreen nerf. I agree it needed to be changed, and what they did gets the job done, but what I'd rather see instead is they buff the evasion but nerf the duration significantly. Say only 3 seconds instead of 10. I think this allows more outplay potential, and it plays into the class skill fantasy better. I like the nerf they did.
I think his suggestion may have worked. I mean, it would have been interesting, but like you would have been fundamentally changing how the skill functions, basically. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it would have been interesting, but yeah, I'm okay with the nerf we got.
He also said buff, like the evasion on it wasn't enough. I don't know.
Well, no, like his point. So I think his point is like make it where it's like, oh shit, I'm about to die, and I need to get the fuck out of Dodge. I don't have like my like shit that I normally used to get out. I'm gonna pop this. It's gonna give me an assload of evasion for like 2 seconds, and I'm gonna try and like just run the fuck out of here, basically.
Right.
So it would like fundamentally change how you use the skill, basically. It'd be like another oh shit button.
Chris Cortez, this says, welcome to Nerf Desert Online. I'm Legendary Mike says, I didn't mean to start the debate, but the chemistry between you guys are priceless. Great listen, guys. P.S. I don't think your toxicity was malicious, Frosty. Just little silly comments that made me smile. E, I don't know, what is this? Backwards E says, I think Rezlar is kind of cool. Shrug. And then Matthias War says, Rezlar, let the internet bullies talk. You are putting in actual work. The podcast is entertaining and have a big part in that. If you think it would be the same, it would be boring. If you all think it would be the same, it would be boring. Yeah, Rezlar, you have a little bit of support there.
Yeah, like I said, there was a lot of people who were very nice and very supportive, and thank you all very much for that.
Sirlock says, there's a warrior ability called Ground Slash. Yes, there is. The Moose-ass?
There is. I forgot it existed because back in my day in Awaken, you never touched that ability. So I actually forgot it existed. But it does exist, and it's actually pretty good in Succession from what I understand. It's like one of their main things that they use, I think.
It's Full Tag Pulse. The Moose-ass?
No. Wrong. That's Smash. It's different.
The Moose-assassin says, is 281 Musa, the nerfs on Suck Musa basically killed the class IMO. Dude. Now Awakening, even though it got nerfed somewhat, knock on Woody Allen, got some pretty minor but small buff, which will make Awake Musa a bit more playable, although I don't know why they nerfed the summon rate on projection when it doesn't float people all the time, but I'm hyped to test it. Currently, using Suck Musa to do voodoo scrolls and grind. Honestly, Suck Musa is the best for doing scrolls, especially single summon mobs. I'm a gamer says, I'm sad because I like Musa Suck and it's going to be dead. And then Moose-assassin says, yup, absolutely dead. So dramatic, dude.
Just like Ranger, dude. Just like Succession Ranger. It's bricked.
It's bricked, dude. West Chafin says, the DR buff we need is evasion in our DR. No, we need special attack damage % reduction based on total DR is literally that simple. Yeah, that's what I was saying, dude. And then Bilver says, yes, I agree. And that's all the comments. I want to thank you, Rilok, for hanging out with us today. This was a lot longer than I anticipated, so I appreciate you staying with us.
How long has it been?
I really appreciate it.
I don't know. I won't know until I hit stop.
I feel like this is a 4-hour long one.
Yeah. Oh wait,
no,
it's long. It's 3 hours and 35 minutes.
Oh Jesus. Okay. Well.
Yeah, it's pretty long, dude.
Never mind then.
So yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate it. Appreciate your Ranger perspective. You're in the Discord, right? The Value Pack Discord?
I am.
All right, so when we have community night, we'll try to get a lot of the good classes in there and just come PvP and show people up. I think it'll be cool. Where can people find you and your YouTube? If you want to plug your stuff again real quick, would be cool.
Oh yeah. So that's gonna be for twitch.tv, Rilok_II, and then for YouTube it's just gonna be Rilok919. But yeah, show up for I guess some average Ranger gameplay. Speaking of Ranger. Yeah, can we get some Ranger buffs, please? That's all I want.
That's it. We'll put
nothing much.
I'll pass those links you sent me to Rezlar, so it'll be in the description when it comes out.
Yeah, so if you guys want to check out Rilok, you can find his shit down in the description below, both his Twitch and his YouTube. Make sure to go check him out. Yeah, I think we're done, right?
Yeah, we're done. Hit us up on Reddit, Discord, share the podcast with your friends and people and all that stuff. And we appreciate all the kind comments to Rezlar.
Yeah, that's the last thing I want to touch on one more time. Thank you all so much for the support. I appreciate it. And we will catch you guys next week.